What are you doing?
Tony!
Oh, sorry. Mike said I needed to grind the tape more. So don't worry about it. I'm just going to grind some tape, guys.
I don't know what the hell that was.
I know. He grinded the tape. Hey, it was duct tape, right? I thought it was a coffee cup at first. I'm not going to lie.
Goodness. What's so funny is right before this, we went on, Mike goes, I got to look at everybody. I've been grinding. I go, oh my goodness, this is perfect for the stupid joke. Because every time I listen to somebody, and I've been listening to a lot of different people, a lot of smart people, a lot of well-researched people, far beyond me. And they all go, I'm grinding the tape. I've heard grinding the tape about 7,000 times in the last 3 weeks. That's how many podcasts I listen to. 7,000 times. Grinding the tape on Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. How you boys doing?
The tape don't lie, Tony. The tape don't lie. So if you ain't watching tape, you ain't doing it right. That's what people say.
And that's the only way we're going to be able to do mock drafts like we're doing today. Everyone that's tuned in. We're doing our first mock draft of the year. So we're each going to be drafting for specific teams. We're going Mike, Joe, Tony in that order. But we're going to draft for every team in the first round. So stay tuned for your team if you're waiting for your team. And let us know in the chat if you agree or disagree with the players that we're picking. And again, I just want to keep in mind, this is the first mock draft of maybe 3 or 4, right, guys? So we're going to do more of these and give you guys some different looks with different players.
I just want to put it out there. I've checked the tape on every single one of these prospects. I've watched No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, Joe. I would believe you.
Mike, and we're more of an, under promise, over deliver. So if we get another mock draft in before the draft, I feel really good about that.
Get excited.
Cinnamon, Albert, Steven, Bodo Winter is back. Tony
here.
Pro is in the house. Bodo Winter. What the?
Bodo!
Kirsten's in the house. Mike's picking for you. That's right. Bodo, welcome back.
Who's in that thumbnail on? Who's he got? I couldn't see. Bodo, who's
Bodo's
that
back
thumbnail?
in the house.
I can't tell.
Can't tell, but it's a very handsome guy. Probably not as handsome as me, but right there. So as you can tell, you guys, we got the mock draft in the middle of it with the teams that we're taking. So you guys can see that we're just basically switching off. But that doesn't mean that we're going to draft there because we can make a trade. So if Tony's on the clock and I need to make a trade up, I'm just going to say ring, ring, or whatever kind of phone call because Mike doesn't know the old-fashioned phones. But whatever we got to do to make the phone call. I know Mike goes like this, but really Mike's never actually picked up a corded phone.
Yeah, my phone's always been handheld in my pocket. Wireless.
A lot of pressure on Mike with the #1 overall pick. So we got that going.
Have you had a phone with a cord on it before?
No. I feel like I was right at the edge of that. Maybe my parents could tell you some stories about phones with cords. It's like crazy. It's like, remember when the phones would spin? And I'm like, what? You were lying if you were under the age of 30 and saying that you used a phone that spin.
Okay, we're just
now. The GOAT is already telling you who to draft right here. So the GOAT's already given us the top 5 picks of how we should draft right now.
Well, I've got some bad news. So let's get into this draft.
Harrison's giving you a little excuse right here, Mike. Harrison's a big Panther fan, as we know. And he says, Mike, don't fuck this up.
Joe, officially start this draft. By the way, everyone, I would like for y'all to like the video real quick. It helps us out so much in the YouTube algorithm and finding success with these videos. We put some effort into them. So if you like the content, please like the video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel with notifications on, we go live like this multiple times a week. So turn on those notifications. Let's do it. You guys ready?
You guys selected all the teams, right? Before we do something stupid and to hit the start button and all the teams just select right away and we look like a bunch of amateur assholes.
I am out on the controls. We have given all of the faith to Joe.
All right, we're good to go. We are ready to rock and roll. Mike's on the clock. So this first pick, this was the Chicago Bears. I'm sure everybody who's watching this is already familiar with it. in my opinion, the Panthers gave up way too much to get a quarterback from this class, but they have to. Like, it would be insane if they didn't take a quarterback or trade out of this position.
You don't know that going to quarterback. Mike's the GM. Mike could pick whatever he wants right now, even though I think he's taking a quarterback. But like I'm with you, Tony. I think they traded way too much to go from 9-1. And then Drew Rosenhaus, the agent for DJ Moore, did you guys see him on Pat McAfee? Or he was talking about how the Panthers were crying that they gave up DJ Moore. So if you knew it was a bad deal when you were doing it and you didn't want to give up the player, why'd you make the trade? Why'd you make the trade? And I think they regret it after seeing all the hype and stuff. And some of this calmed down a little bit. I think the Panthers are going to regret moving up to number 1.
We'll see. I think that when you talk about moving up to number 1, I only would make that package and make that deal happen for a sure thing, like you guys are saying. The move up for Trey Lance didn't make any sense to me a couple years ago either, because it wasn't a sure thing. These quarterbacks, all of them have red flags. All of them have strengths. All of them have some room to grow and some developing to do to become worthy of a top 5 pick in the first place, let alone worthy of being traded up for inside the top 5 at 1 overall. So the Panthers also gave away the receiver in that trade. And I keep telling everyone this, like, they traded away a weapon that would help their quarterback develop for the quarterback. So we'll see how it works out. But who I'm going with here, Joe? I'm going with the quarterback out of Alabama, Bryce Young, as the first overall pick.
Excellent.
I know Panthers fans want CJ Stroud, and there is some stuff that would point towards CJ Stroud being the pick. I think that Bryce Young is ready. He's the most ready to jump in there right now, and his pocket presence is the biggest thing for me that I think takes him to the next level and makes him the first overall pick in this draft. His red flag is size, and you're worried about him getting hurt. Everyone has red flags, and I'll take the size and injury risk red flag over struggling to get through his reads, inaccurate, turnover prone, and some of the other red flags of the quarterbacks this year. Also, I kind of want to see what it looks like with different quarterbacks, and I know when I'm out of control of the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young might not get taken in every single one of the mock drafts here. A lot of people like Stroud.
Mike, I agree with you. If you're trading up, giving up this much to trade to number 1, like, I think you have to get the best player at the position. Like, you have to throw out prototype because, and I've talked to you guys about this privately. I've had to throw out a lot of my Ohio State bias and watching, where it's like, I looked at a player who was like, he was good, but he was playing with like top 10 receiver talent in the NFL the entire time that he was there. And I know that Bryce Young has had a similar run of wide receivers, but it just didn't feel right. And then I watched the Georgia game and I was like, oh, hadn't seen that mobility. I hadn't seen anything. So then all of a sudden it was like, now there was a tier where before it was Bryce Young. After the Georgia-Ohio State game, it became CJ Stroud on that level. And that's one really good game after both teams had like a month off. So I wonder, like, Georgia's defense would have been in mid-season form. Would that game have looked different? And would CJ still be being talked about at that? I still think he's worthy of being the second quarterback drafted, but I'd be trading up for Bryce Young in this spot.
Yeah, and I think that what separated it for me too, and what has Bryce Young at QB1 for me, is just that magic. He almost has like the instincts inside the pocket to where he's light on his toes, but he's not getting knocked around. He's able to manipulate and move around the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, but also have like just this sixth sense that some quarterbacks have that almost seems like you can't teach, that knows a guy is a couple feet from hitting him from behind and takes that extra step in or takes that extra step back to the left, to the right, wherever it might be. CJ Stroud has that. It's just not as electric or explosive as Bryce Young's ability to avoid guys in the pocket.
Yeah,
did you just say to the left, to the right? Like you were doing like a song right there, Mike. I like it.
Was to the front. And Bodo, you're right. I am very disappointed in myself. I should have recognized Melbourne.
Yeah, we all should.
I was thinking it looked kind of like Matt Forte, but I was like, why would he have a Chicago Bear? It doesn't matter. We're coming down to the rabbit hole.
So Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young, but my favorite quarterback in the draft is CJ Stroud. I'm telling you that right now. I like CJ Stroud. Some of me, when I look at CJ Stroud, I go, dang, He has 2 first-round offensive tackles. He has some bad wide receivers there. He had like an all-star. But then you go look at Bryce Young, the same thing. So same thing, but I like what C.J. Stroud is doing. I like everything about him. And that puts me on the clock at number 2 with the Houston Texans. And I'm like, hey, guess what the Texans need? Davis Mills was good, but guess what they need? They need a quarterback, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, which one do I take? Which quarterback do I take? Mike already took Bryce Young off the table for me, so it makes it kind of easier for me, right? But no, guess what? I'm saying they're going to pass on the quarterback, and they go with the number 1 pick that should have been the guy all along since we've been talking about it, in Will Anderson. And that's who I'm taking. Will Anderson right here, edge rusher out of Alabama, right here with Will Anderson. Pair him up with Jerry Hughes and that defense. I don't know if you guys have looked at the depth chart of the Houston Texans defense lately, but with Perryman, Littleton, Jimmy Ward over there, they got some veteran guys. They're going to bring him in, and I'm thinking these quarterbacks are going to fall a little bit in this draft. I don't know about how we're doing it today, but I think the hype of the quarterbacks has fallen a little bit, where Houston thinks if they want a quarterback, they have another pick at number 12 that they can move up if they want to, or they can stay right there and get one of these guys that fall.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that this might be a little bold right now, but as we get closer to the draft, this is going to start to become a conversation where the Texans might be thinking about Will Anderson in this spot, because I think either way they go, they're going to go quarterback edge rusher. And whether it's 12 or 2, I think that's going to depend on how the board is looking as we enter the draft. I was just going through this. Sorry, Joe, I'm already on this comment. Bodo saying he wish he could still donate to us. The best way you can help us, Bodo, is get more people here to the channels. Please share the video, like the video. Appreciate you. And I'm ready for this Raiders pick. But go ahead, Tony. Anything on Will here?
Well, I'm picking next for the Cardinals, and that just threw everything off for me, because part of the point that I was going to make was if quarterbacks went 1 and 2, like a lot of people think that they will, and I'm starting to lean the way that this draft is going. I think you have a defensive head coach who got a 6-year contract, who's going to have some time. Like he doesn't have to pick a QB this year. They brought in Case Keenum, and they still have Davis Mills on the roster. Like maybe he does think like, hey, we're going to struggle no matter what, even if they get Stroud this year. So why not struggle and wait till next year when you can then move up and get the guy that you want for sure? Because we still think Houston's going to be somewhere top 10. Like they're making improvements and they'll be fun, but I don't see Houston pushing for a playoff spot and drafting in the 20s. It'll still be a reasonable amount of picks that they can go up and get a quarterback if one doesn't fall to them, like Joe said, at number 12. But this, you taking Will Anderson right here really kind of...
It shakes everything.
You know, I'm not going to just come in here and do what everybody else says, Tony. Will Anderson has been the top prospect since we started talking about this last year. And why not? It's like on draft day. You got to put the piece of paper in your damn pocket that says draft Will Anderson no matter what. And then you pull it out and then you do it. That's what you got to do.
If the Texans go this route and they take Will Anderson, and people are freaking out in the chat, like the GOAT is saying Davis Mills is trash. That's the point that Tony made, the GOAT, is that this entire team isn't ready to go on a run yet. So why not give yourself, positioning to next year's draft with a better QB class, and you also get, this freak of nature, Will Anderson, that's coming out this year. But the biggest thing with the Houston Texans is they have, and if they draft Will Anderson, this will signal that they're going to. They got to give DeMeco Ryans a couple years here. And he's going to build a good defense, and we know he's going to be good on the defensive side of the ball. But they can't draft Will Anderson and then fire DeMeco Ryans after the season. Like, we need to keep this thing going and rebuild this team around a head coach.
And I think who is it? Bob McNair, the owner there. I think that he has settled on like this is a real thing. DeMeco played for the team, rookie of the year. He's showed a lot of promise, and everybody seems to really like him. He got a lot of good veterans to come sign up for this rebuild early on. So, yeah, I mean, they need edge rusher. I was definitely going to draft an edge rusher because I'm picking for them at 12. And so I was like, well, this is going to be great. Hopefully.
This is why I came here. That's why I brought my GM clothes on.
Whoa. Don't act all high and mighty, Joe. We all know what the hell you're doing, all right? But good thing I'm drafting for the Raiders, so don't got to worry about your scheme working here.
Yeah, and the GOAT here says he makes a comment pretty harshly about Davis Mills, and I don't think Davis Mills, they view him as any sort of like future player or whatever. But I do think that bringing in somebody who's going to put in an offense that is similar to what the 49ers do, where it's a lot of easy reads, a lot heavy on the run game, leaning on Dameon Pierce, probably bringing in another running back there. And having a veteran like Case Keenum there they're going to be fine. I don't think they want to be forced to take anybody that they don't necessarily love at the position when there's premier talent in next year's draft. So I'm on the clock with the Cardinals here. And I was taking Will Anderson. This was going to be a very short pick for us. But now the Raiders need a quarterback, Joe. Mike, you're at number 7.
I am.
I know that we both hate the Raiders and we don't want them to have a quarterback ever. But as the Raiders, are you willing to trade up here to number 3? Like, are you looking at CJ falling here, or are you saying, hey, we're at 7 and there's still 3 quarterbacks on the board, I'm not trading up?
So here's what I think happens, Tony, and here's what I'm going to do with my teams. Since Joe threw this curveball at us so early in the draft, I'll throw a curveball as well. The Raiders call you up, and they offer whatever they're going to offer to trade up to try and get a quarterback here. And the Colts outbid their offer and overpay to move up 1 spot and block the Raiders and draft CJ Stroud. So
so the Colts are trading up with the Cardinals right here. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I just feel like if I'm the Cardinals GM, I went through, because I really only did research for my teams and wrote down team needs. I just wrote Cardinals need. Just the word need. It doesn't matter the position or the place. Like I could even make a case for quarterback, like with the new.
Are you accepting the trade, Tony? That's what I need to know.
I accept the trade. I accept the trade with whoever wants to come to this spot, because for the Cardinals, if Will Anderson isn't on the board, then I need some sort of trade back.
Here come the Indianapolis Colts. And while we execute this trade, everyone, please reminder, if you're just tuned in, like the video, share it with some friends. Bodo Winter said that he shared it, so thank you so much. We won't miss the Mel Blount reference next time, promise. What's up, Hawk76? We're about to get to the Seahawks, so stay tuned.
I like this. The GOAT person has got strong opinions. The Colts
love that.
Super Bowl if they draft Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud. I think the GOAT meant like in the future, like he's like projecting it out, not next season, but like, Shane Steichen, if he can get a year or 2 to work with Richardson or Stroud, that's a team that you could see going to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of talent there, and I think Steichen would prefer to have CJ Stroud. If I had to make a venture a guess, I think that's what he would prefer.
We're gonna make a trade right here.
Joe said that trade.
There's some issues here with the trade, maybe.
Indy's coming up to number 3. Arizona moving back to 4, right? So just 1 spot. And we've seen this before, where Indianapolis really wants a quarterback, and they move up 1 spot. You saw it where the 49ers did this to, the Bears a couple years ago, where they screwed the Bears over, and this is when the Bears took Mitchell Trubisky, right? They took a big deal to move up 1 spot.
Yeah, this to me is a move that I could definitely see happening. If the Texans pass on quarterback on draft day, I think it would get very exciting with the Cardinals on the clock at 3. Because there's a few teams that would say, oh, shit, we didn't see this coming.
And I thought – okay, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I think even if the Texans go quarterback, let's say they draft CJ Stroud here, Cardinals are on the clock, and the Raiders are calling, and the Cardinals are thinking about trading back because they're cool with Tyree Wilson maybe instead of Will Anderson or even a Nolan Smith or Lucas Van Ness if they're going after edge rusher. Or maybe they like the corners. They like one of these corners. They can get the cornerback 1 or 2 off the board and move back with the Raiders. The Colts still could be enticed to swap with the Cardinals to block the Raiders and get Anthony Richardson. So I still think either way that this pick is the most interesting pick of the draft here at 3 for the Cardinals. And no matter how the Texans draft it, I think this is going to send us down a couple different paths for a couple other teams in the draft.
Well,
Any left, Joe?
So Mike, you're on the clock. So who are you taking?
We're taking CJ Stroud if CJ Stroud is there still.
So Tony is now on the clock.
Yeah.
I was looking at it with the Colts. I was looking at Anthony Richardson. I just like the ability of putting a guy with similar skill set, maybe even, more athletic than Jalen Hurts and more of a freak of nature athlete than some of the guys we've seen with Shane Steichen work with in the past and find success with. That's why I was looking at AR. But if CJ Stroud is there, this guy is maybe one of two quarterbacks that's ready to just walk into the NFL and immediately be successful. So I think that's where the Colts would go if CJ Stroud is available. CJ Stroud, the only concern I have with him is I saw it in Josh McCown, which is why also I'm a little scared of the Panthers not taking CJ Stroud like everyone thinks, because Josh McCown is their QB coach, and he did a film breakdown and said that he's concerned about CJ Stroud's ability to go from the first read to the fifth read, and it's just not quite as fast, and he's not as quick of a processor as Mr. Young.
Yeah, I think this is a good, a good placement, right? Like I would be a much bigger fan seeing CJ Stroud in that situation where it's like you get Shane Steichen. We've seen him work with Herbert and Jalen Hurts. You go there, you put him with Jonathan Taylor, two good receivers. Now all of a sudden, maybe the Colts can come back in like the third round and go ahead and get another wide receiver that falls. Maybe trying to think like who might be in the third round that would be a nice pairing there. Because they got two bigger guys already. But if you can get a slot receiver, Colts might even be better set going in the second round and trying to get Tank Dell or Josh Downs or somebody that they can put in the slot and allow Pierce and Pittman to work the outside, or maybe move Pittman into the slot and go get another outside big guy like Tillman from Tennessee.
You're on the clock
now with the Cardinals. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, yes, you're on the clock now.
Okay, so this is my thinking as a human being. If I were drafting here, I don't think that there's a way that I could leave Jalen Carter on the board, right? Like it just is not something that I could see happening. However, I don't know that the Cardinals, are in the same mindset. Just like even with the new GM coming and talking about integrity and like the focus they're going to have and how disciplined they're going to be and everything. I don't know that everything that's happened in this spot that the Cardinals are trying to bring in somebody who's not showing up, has had trouble with the law here. Like, I don't think that they're trying to bring that into their building. And since they have so many needs, they lost, Zach Allen to, I think, the Broncos or somebody like that. He signed. Watt retires. They need an edge rusher. I'm going to take the big guy from Texas Tech. I'll take Tyree Wilson.
Tyree Wilson?
Yeah, I think that if they can bring in an edge rusher, which is what they need, have that going year one, Jonathan Gannon gets in there, the defense gets a nice piece to it. Because really, they need to find some sort of identity for next year. I don't even know who's playing quarterback to start the season. Do we know who's going to start the season at quarterback for the Cardinals? This could be a real brutal year for them. So you gotta get somebody in there that is locked in and can count on. And Tyree Wilson is a freak athlete, so I would bring him there. I really wanted Will Anderson for the Cardinals. He seems like the player that they need to bring into that building to get things headed in the right direction.
I like it, Tony. I feel like the same way. I think they're going to go edge rusher, and they're probably targeting Will Anderson. And we just talked about it with the Colts. I think that we really could see a trade. We could see a trade here for the Cardinals. Because looking at what they're going to be doing next year, they're probably going to be this high again next year. So their mindset's got to be in this rebuild, we can get a lot out of this pick, whether it is Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, or a trade back.
Yeah, I don't know how much they're really going to get. I mean, a second excuse me, a second and a fourth maybe to come up that. Like if there is a bidding war, like let's say there's a second team involved, like the Raiders, then maybe they can get a few more picks. But I don't think you're giving up a future first. You're doing a first round swap this year. I don't think you're giving up a first next year to leapfrog, unless of course you have the Colts or the Raiders are like, this is our guy, and he went to 3, and we're not going to let him. We're not going to wait another second.
Okay, we had some technical difficulties with the board, but we're good to go, right, Joe?
Yeah, we're good. So Tony's. I kind of screwed myself with the Will Anderson, but I kind of figured it was coming. And then Tony took my guy in Tyree Wilson right now because I think Tyree Wilson is one of the best out there. And I would love to see him paired up with Max Crosby when I'm a Raider fan, but I think that's a luxury that the Raiders don't have right now to be able to take somebody like that. So I like Tyree Wilson to Arizona. I think maybe even Jalen Carter to Arizona would have been a good one just because a new defensive guy coming in there. You always want to fix your defense, and he's – who'd they take last year in Philadelphia? I'm driving a blank right now with the big guy in Philadelphia. So there you go. But I was going to take an edge. I was probably going to take Tyree Wilson right now with Seattle because I was thinking Seattle's got rid of almost all their defensive linemen this offseason. Have you noticed that? I don't know if you guys have paid attention to that, but they've got rid of almost every single one of them. And so I was like, oh, they're going to bring in another one. So now Seattle's sitting here. Seattle has 2 first-round picks, just like a couple of these other teams. And I'm wondering who Seattle's going to take. And this one's a tough one for me. But I would say that Seattle either they could do a lot of they could trade down here because they filled their quarterback need. They have Geno Smith. He played better than everybody thought. So they're not like hurting for a quarterback. They're not hurting for a lot of positions. They played actually better than everybody thought last year. I actually think they do a little stretch here, and this might be a little high for him, but I think they go with Lucas Van Ness right here at number 5.
I think this is a Pete Carroll guy. I like this fit. Yeah, it's an interesting take here because it is a little bit high. He's been going more like closer to 10, maybe 8 or 9. So we'll see if the edge rushers start to fly off the board, if Seattle is inclined to make this kind of a pick. I just like the versatility of this guy. I feel like he can work inside and out, and it gives me a lot of hope that he's going to be able to be successful in the NFL at the next level. So hopefully a top 5 worthy pick, though.
Yeah, he definitely feels like he has a Pete Carroll style motor. Like you know, I didn't watch a ton of his, but you see it and you're like, oh, I could see Pete falling in love with having that on his defensive line. You know, putting that on the opposite side of Uchenna Nwosu, who had a breakout season. I was very happy to see him put up double-digit sacks, not in a Chargers uniform last year. I think that's kind of the focus right now for Pete is bringing that back. I honestly think that Pete would take a chance on Jalen Carter. Yeah. I think that if he could get Jalen Carter on that interior line, because that's what you need. And again, I don't know these players. That's the hardest thing about this entire exercise of this, you know, like doing these mock drafts is we don't know these players. We don't get a chance to see their work ethic, be around them. We know he's going through a lot. What's in the media, there could be even more stuff for Jalen Carter, but I could see a situation where Pete says, come up here, you know, we'll take care of you. We got a lot of good leadership around the building and players could come in, but I do like the pick. I think that would be.
You know how hard it is for me to pass on a guy like Jalen Carter right there. It was very tough, but I'm looking, like you said, I'm looking at the versatility of somebody. And Seattle likes to move their guys around. They like to blitz certain different people and move it around. So I'm looking at that's why I'm bringing in a guy with a high motor. I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Carter, but sometimes teams drop people just for littlest things. And I'm just looking at Seattle, and I'm like, Detroit's next, and Detroit might have took another pair up with Hutchinson. I don't know how you're going to draft Tony. I'm looking at that, and I'm like, we already lost out on 2 edge rushers. We might as well get this other one in.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Jalen Carter, when you take away the concerns off the field, and they're big concerns, but this guy is crazy. This guy is nuts.
I know it, and I think that's the reason why right now I'm on the clock at 6 with the Detroit Lions. I think you got to take this swing here because they got James Houston from Jackson State, who was a revelation last year with 8 or 9 sacks, and then Aiden Hutchinson, who was right there for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now all of a sudden you might be able to get Jalen Carter in the center of that defense. They had good linebacker play out of Rodrigo. They went out and signed 2 corners. That's the other position I looked at right now for the Lions is like, I really am a big fan of Christian Gonzalez. And I think that he would be great. He tackles really well and he's fast. I think that he would be tremendous for the Lions. But if you're going to build a team and you already spent in free agency on your corners, I'm gonna make the pick as Jalen Carter going to the Detroit Lions. And again, like that fits with what this team is doing, like just strong, nasty football players where it's like, oh, all of these guys work all the way up to the whistle, the entire play. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at a defensive line that matches the offensive line for the Lions. The Lions have a top 3, 4, 5 offensive line in the league. Now you're looking in a couple of years, maybe even by the end of the year, a defensive line that is causing fits. And I don't want to say it now, but one of these slips of paper could say that my prediction is going to be the Lions are going to be in the NFC Championship game. Not saying that I'm putting it up there right now, but I have already written it out and it's over here, and I can't wait for when we do that show.
Every year we see somebody fall, and every year we see a team come up and get a good player or a player fall to them. And this year it's the Detroit Lions, especially in this draft, where Jalen Carter falls to them. What a big, I could see a big party in Detroit after they draft Jalen Carter. That would be their first pick. They have another pick later on in the draft too, or in the first round. So if they pull Jalen Carter in the first round at number 6, they got to be happy with that, especially with the improvements that they've already made over the last 2 years. Dan Campbell I wouldn't want to be around Dan Campbell after they make this pick. You know, imagine how many kneecaps will be cut off right now.
Yeah, allowing Aaron Glenn to bring that into the fold, the Lions defense could turn a corner that it's never turned. Like they literally would turn the corner. We've never been on this street. This is a new street. This is a good street to be on. This is fun.
Yeah. This draft probably is not going the way that people came in or going, where's the quarterbacks at? Well, we've seen it. I truly believe the quarterbacks fall. I think the hype is over. We've got over and stuff. I think this is a very good representation of what we could see at the end of April.
And everyone will look at this and go crazy. And I agree with you, Joe. I think that we're going to see some of the quarterback stock fall a little bit as we get closer to the draft. Everyone keep in mind, we are still 3 weeks out, and this thing is going to change a ton from now until then. So I like how it's going so far. I think that it could go down this way, and it'll be exciting to go down this way because we're all waiting for Anthony Richardson to get drafted. I'll ask you this, Joe, because I don't think that Anthony Richardson is a fit with the Raiders at this spot here where I'm drafting at 7 overall. And I'm a Raider hater, so I'm going to go with whatever's the worst situation. I'm just kidding. I'm going to draft what I think is best. But do you see some of the fit concerns with Anthony Richardson that I see? Because the biggest thing for me is I think that he needs to develop. And he needs to go to an offense that's going to scheme around him. And it seems like what they're going to run with Jimmy G in Vegas is the opposite of what he needs.
And I think everybody would love an athlete like Anthony Richardson, somebody that you could be like, this guy could be a great quarterback. But there's so many questions about him that you can't take him. When you're and somebody hit me up on TikTok, they're like, why can't you? If he's going to be a good quarterback in 3 years, why not? Because when you're in the top 10, you're in the top 10 for a reason. You need somebody that can come in day one and be that guy. You can't take a risk here. We're not 100% that all these guys are going to be great, but you want the guy that's a solid prospect coming in day one when you're drafting in the top 10 to turn this franchise around. Is Anthony Richardson that guy? No, you're going to have to sit him on the bench. So, and the Raiders don't do the Raiders won 6 games last year. They don't have the luxury to be sitting there going, you know what? Yeah, we could waste a first round pick and hope our defense gets better, later on in the draft. You can't do that with an Anthony Richardson type. You don't have that luxury. Another team later on might have that, one of these top teams, but the Raiders, no, they don't have it. And Josh McDaniels, the quarterback whisperer, when the hell did he ever become a great quarterback whisperer? He had Tom Brady, the greatest guy. That's it. After that, when has the quarterbacks been good? When has the quarterbacks been good? Kyle Orton? You're going to say Kyle Orton? Come on.
Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, and
He's
now
been in
he's
the
on the
league.
Raiders. Brian
Yeah.
Hoyer.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
you got two MVPs. Remember when I joked about Jimmy G press conference being pushed back because Brian Hoyer got released? Now they're both on the same team. Woo! Raiders got this going on. I don't know, Mike. This is the way I thought the board would be for the Raiders if I was drafting for the Raiders. And this is where I'm thinking the Raiders would trade down. In this scenario, I would think the Raiders would actually trade down because the two cornerbacks are still on the board and Paris Johnson is still on the board, which I think those three are the three guys that the Raiders should be looking at. I'll take Witherspoon or Gonzalez, and I'll take Paris Johnson. Those are the three that I'd be looking at if I was sitting in your shoes, but I would also be looking to trade down. And I was trying to look at one of my teams that would probably move up, and I'm not sure which one it would be.
But that's the thing, Joe, is right now, and I'll let you look for that for a second. That's the thing. I don't know that there's a team that wants to come to this spot for the exact reasons that you just said. The top two corners are still on the board. There's still the top offensive linemen are still on the board. There's still some good edge rusher, D-line, depending on what you're looking for at that position. So why would anybody come up to 7? I think the Raiders are going to be forced to make a pick. And are they going to let Will Levis go past this spot? Because to me, Levis is the quarterback that fits the Raiders more than Anthony Richardson. Please don't ruin Anthony Richardson's career by making him a Raider. Ziegler, don't do that.
If the Raiders draft Anthony Richardson, you might as well give him jersey number 2.
Well, let's not do that, okay? Let's not do that. I am in control of the Raiders here, so whatever Joe thinks doesn't matter. I'm taking Joe Schmo.
He's taking Charlie Jones, the wide receiver from Purdue.
Leon Sandcastle's the pick here. No, I think that if the board goes down like this, the best shot here for the Raiders is to get Max Crosby some help. And I don't mean edge rusher. I mean getting him a corner that's going to lock down receivers on the outside and give him some more time to get to the quarterback. I'd take Oregon cornerback Christian Gonzalez at 7. But good thing this is a mock, and this isn't going to happen in real life.
Don't do that. Do not put my favorite player from this draft on the Raiders. I can't handle that.
I think that in this spot, if this is the way it goes down, and this is the way the draft board crumbles, and CJ Stroud isn't there, is basically the guy, because I don't think the Raiders are drafting any quarterback other than CJ Stroud at 7 overall. This is your perfect pick. I mean, Christian Gonzalez could have been, a guy that was drafted up with sauce last year. He is a dynamic cornerback that can do it all. Play man coverage, zone coverage, plays the ball in the air really well. Great instincts. He's a playmaker, and he seems to have that fire that you want to see in a cornerback. It's a really challenging position to play. You got to do a lot of throwing the last play out and focusing on the next one. And then the biggest thing that a lot of NFL teams are looking for in corners, and we saw it with Sauce last year, J.C. Horn, put J.C. Horn over Pat Surtain the year before that. This guy hits like a linebacker.
Yep.
So I think that puts him just over the edge over Witherspoon, who is a really good tackling corner as well. Just not quite that wow factor when you see him come down and smack a running back.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a tackling machine, and that's what I was looking at him and Witherspoon. I've been looking at both of them all off season, trying to find out which one. I don't think you can go wrong with either one, but I think Gonzalez puts his body up there more than everybody else, and he comes out there. Come on, Bolt man.
I forgot to add something to my take about Christian Gonzalez not going to the Raiders. Fuck the Raiders. Go Bolt man.
I love it. I don't know who Jordan Phillips is. This is the first time I've ever seen him in here, but I really appreciate you being in the chat, putting all your opinions in here. They're great. Looks like you got a beautiful family there. He's made the pick for you, Joe. So don't screw it up.
I don't see it. What is it?
You don't see it. It's right there.
Jordan Phillips. Well,
no pressure.
I'm busy doing my own thing. I got lots of notes over here. I'm still watching tape over here. Like you guys are over here just making picks. I'm watching film. I'm going down to the last second. I got time on the clock. And I'm like, do I make this trade? What do I do here?
Wind in the tape.
Go back to the intro if you missed it.
Yeah.
It's all in the tape. So
Well,
Atlanta's on the board. Atlanta can go a lot of different ways, and we know that Atlanta needs a cornerback, and Witherspoon is a great cornerback. And there's a lot of other things. They could go quarterback here if they don't like the young guy over there. So it's up to me right now, and I'm like, who do they take? They have what? They need a edge rusher. They need a interior defense line. They need wide, and they need everything. Basically, they need everything down there in Atlanta. So I take Witherspoon. I know I don't want to upset our own fans in the chat over here, but I think I am going to, and I think I'm going to take the first wide receiver in the board, and I'm taking Quentin Johnston out of TCU.
Ooh, these Atlanta wide receivers are going to be massive.
Well, yeah, they signed Matt Collins, right? So they got Matt Collins over there. They don't really have a lot of wide receivers. They have Drake London, then they have Matt Collins, and they have Scotty Miller as their top guys right now. So I'm saying they add a rookie in here to go along with it, and you might not like it. You might think it's too early, but like we said, who's going to trade up? No, there's not a lot of people that want to trade up right now. So I'm going with the guy from TCU.
And I think that Desmond Ritter's best pass is the moon ball. He throws that thing up in a favorable position for wide receivers like Johnson, like Drake London. If he's the guy, then I think that this is a good pick for the Falcons, although I think they should consider going corner at this spot. AJ Terrell is really good, but he hasn't really been the top 5 corner that we want him to be.
I'm sorry. But
it'd be really tempting to go Anthony Richardson here just because I know Arthur Smith knows what he can do with that guy.
No, would not be. They have Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. Stop it. The quarterback position is solid as. I need you guys to come along on this train. I will say this, though. What's interesting is about 31 years ago, the Atlanta Falcons made a terrible idea, and they moved off a number 4. Do you know what happened to that number 4? He went to go play for the Green Bay Packers, and he became a Hall of Fame quarterback. So will they repeat history and get rid of another number 4 in Atlanta and do the same thing? Mike, that's a fun TikTok. If they do move Desmond Ridder, do it, retracing that number 4 is being shipped off as later round, given up on too early. Will Desmond Ridder become the next?
I'm helping Ridder out right here. I'm getting you a wide receiver to go along with it.
I know what I think would help him out the most is getting defense. And I agree with Jordan. Like, I just think that you have to have somebody on the other side of Terrell. Like they need another person over there because they need help with the edge situation too. But they brought in Calais. I don't know if he has like a ton of juice left, but he'll do something. Who's the guy they got? Arnold Ebiketie he's the guy they drafted from Penn State last year. I think he had 3 or 4 sacks. He started to develop a little something. If they can go back maybe in the second round. Get somebody, Keanu Benton, the guy from Wisconsin on the interior. That will be a nice piece for them. I think they needed to go defensive here and not get a wide receiver. And maybe here's the other thing, Joe. I don't want to say this too loud. I don't really like Quentin Johnston in the first round.
Well, maybe you just don't like the wide receiver selection. If I would have took a different wide receiver, and that's what I think I saw Adam in here saying, if I would have took another wide receiver, you guys might have been happy with. I don't know why I like Johnston, but out of TCU, I do. Maybe he's not the first guy that gets taken. Maybe it's a different wide receiver here, but I'm going position-wise where I think they build their position over anything else. And I do, and maybe I like Casey Hayward a little bit more than some other people, but I think AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward are not that bad of cornerbacks where you need it right away.
I got a Casey Hayward jersey in that closet. So great take, Joe. I like it. But I have a question. And, if you guys are AJ or everyone in the chat here that's confused about earlier picks, we talked about every pick. We're 40 minutes in and not even to the 10th pick yet. We did extensive reasoning. We did extensive reasoning for each of these picks. So definitely go back. But here, we'll talk about this pick here. I do have a question for each of you guys and everyone in the chat. Who is the wide receiver 1 of this draft class, in your opinion?
Everybody at the same time, we'll all say it at the same time. Who's the wide receiver 1? Ready?
Yeah.
On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Say
Jordan Addison.
Mine's Downs.
Thanks for saying it at the same time, Joe. It was real simple. It was 1, 2, 3. Everybody at the same time.
Well, mine's Josh Jones, but
Your number one is Josh Downs.
Ours with me.
I don't hate it, but I also I don't see that. For me, this wide receiver class is, I think that most of them have a spot where they land where they have the most success, right? Where it's like they all need to be in the right situation. I don't think that there's one receiver where it's like Garrett Wilson last year. We all looked at him or Chris Olave and we're like, they're going to go ball out on any team that they're on. And maybe that's Jackson Smith and Jigba of this class again. But let's go. This next one I think is pretty easy, and it's the Chicago Bears. I'm going offensive line, and a lot of mock drafts I keep seeing Skoronski going here. I'm going to go with Paris Johnson. I think the big athletic tackle, and I think he's going to be able to move really well, which is going to benefit. It's going to benefit Justin Fields. It's going to benefit the run game. They're going to just be able to do more. The kid that they drafted last year, who ended up being like an outstanding left tackle, they got him in the 5th round, Braxton Jones or whatever. I would see like I would have like a left tackle battle if you want, and then the other one's there, and that way you have two really solid tackles. Maybe they can come back and grab a nice guard or interior player. But Paris Johnson, let's make sure Justin Fields now has wide receivers, offensive line is secure. They brought in Deonta Foreman, who I think is underrated, and you still have Khalil Herbert under contract. You brought in Tunyon, and you have Kmet. Now all of a sudden, this Bears offense, I think, can really start cooking middle to end of the season, and they can have fun. So
I like it. I think he's the top. I think he's become the top offensive lineman in this draft. I think after his pro day, people have seen him in a different light. And you talked about his athleticism, Tony, that it's unmatched. And I like Johnson right here. If I was taking an offensive tackle, that would be the guy that I take. And I think the Chicago Bears, when you put this all back into perspective, that they went from number 1 to number 9, they got DJ Moore, and then they get the offensive tackle that they wanted, because we've all known that they needed offensive line. It just makes the trade even better for the Chicago Bears and their offseason, what they've been doing. So great pick, Tony. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
You could be my GM. That's my GM right there. That's my GM.
This is a spot with the Eagles where I consider trading. Is there any of those teams that you guys got that would want to come up?
I was looking, Mike, and I'm good right now.
Nothing.
No, I don't think so, because I'm also picking with the Packers at 15. And there's 2 players that I don't think are going to be taken that I would be more than happy to take the Packers. So I'm not going there. I have Houston at 12. Again, if you already passed on quarterback, you're happy just adding talent, and I don't think you're giving up capital to move.
I think I've already made enough people mad today by taking my wide.
By taking Johnson that high. I'm looking at the Eagles depth chart here, and I'm trying to make educated decision. They still got Brendan Graham here. They still got Josh Sweat. They still got Hassan Reddick, right? He wasn't like a 1-year deal and gone. But I just think that they value depth so much, and if he's there, they're the type of team that wants those wild players, wants those wild athletes, wants those guys they can use in a bunch of different ways. And I think Philly would do it again like they did with Jordan Davis at this part of the draft and go with Nolan Smith and keep piling on these Georgia guys.
So you like the fast defensive end, Nolan Smith? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Like another put him out there and have him rush the edge, because we saw it where Philly like to switch out their defensive line, so more defensive line and edge rushers that they can get, the better for them. So you're going with Nolan Smith?
I'm going with Nolan Smith. I think they would think interior offensive line, but they would trade back for that. I don't know if you draft the best guard in this draft here or the best center in this draft here at 10 overall. I think DB could be something they think about, because they did lose CJ Gardner-Johnson, who plays safety. But again, it's just a little bit high for this class. I don't think there's too many safeties that wow you.
Yeah, I think on draft day, Howie's definitely going to try to trade back if at all
Mhm.
possible. But you did go on the right side of the ball. Like you went defensive line, and I think that's where this pick would be. And it could have been to me like I don't, maybe they have a higher grade on Miles Murphy or another like maybe another one of these defensive linemen is there that falls to them. Kalijah Cansey could be somebody that's an interesting name. I'm not sure how well he fits in that defense, like kind of like the style of what he does. Like, is that going to translate there? But I like this pick.
And picks like this one, like Jordan Davis last year, bringing in Hassan Reddick, bringing in Robert Quinn. You could tell the Eagles are putting effort into extending the careers of Fletcher Cox and extending the careers of Brendan Graham and the production those guys can still give. So I don't know. I feel like in this spot with all the options available, this is the direction that they would go. The best available player, pretty much.
The thing that makes me so excited about Nolan Smith and his NFL career is when he talks about how much he loves to play the run and stop the run. Because when you look at him, you're like, oh, he's kind of slight. He's probably not that good. Well, he just talks about like at Georgia, that's what we do. We line up to play the run. We all compete at this position. It's like this guy's going to be a good player, and I think that if you can go and take snaps behind Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick, year two, like this Eagles team is set up really nicely. Howie's done a great job of sort of like drafting red shirts at very important positions.
I have the same point. I have the same point written down here, Tony. I said if people are afraid of his size hurting his stock, but strength, foot speed, and lateral moves and quickness will help him negate the size issue in run defense.
He plays the run really well, and the way he talks about it, it's exciting because you see the speed, and you're like, he talked about like at Georgia, he's like, they didn't even let me line up, at like the 7 tech, like I didn't get to be the wide, just free rusher on the edge. Now you got a guy who runs 4.39, and he might get to play on the outside of Brandon Graham or Hassan Reddick on a play or something like that. Watch out.
People are probably looking at this and go, what the hell? All right, I got to stop this. I got to stop the fall of this guy. And this is where I'm at. I'm at number 11, and I'm hoping my phone is ringing, and I'm hoping Tony is over there saying, Joe, I'm making you a deal, because there's 2 teams I'm looking to trade with, and it's either the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Detroit Lions. I'm thinking those 2 teams right there are thinking about coming up right now. Tony, are the Lions interested? I don't know.
Are the Lions interested in coming up? I would say no. I would say we are. We love
Pittsburgh is moving up. So I'm making that trade right now with Pittsburgh. I'm calling the Lions. We're going to. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are moving up and coming up to number 11, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, you already know. If you're looking at the board, you should already know who I'm taking. And they're taking the defensive back, Witherspoon, right here. They're coming up for him. I thought Detroit might have done it to add along with Jalen Carter and walk out of this draft with Witherspoon and Carter. But I'm saying no, Witherspoon going to Pittsburgh.
I think that's a perfect marriage of somebody, the way he plays, the defense that he's going to be in, just sort of when you get in that environment and you're a defensive player, it increases your chances of success. Like just getting in there and being around those pros, Hayward, Watt, Minka, they draft so well and they bring in such good football players. That would be a great spot for him to go. And he gets to wear the same colors.
And this is a steal, honestly. Talking about corners, this guy is just like right there, eye to eye to me with Christian Gonzalez. The only things that have me putting Christian Gonzalez over him is one, Christian Gonzalez is a little bit younger, and I think he's going to grow more. I think he's going to be like 6'3.5" or so if he's 6'2" right now. And another thing is I think that Devon Witherspoon is almost too aggressive sometimes. But how could you be upset about that? About a guy being that aggressive at that position with that skill set?
Oh, that's my bad. I had him at Illinois.
Illinois.
Not the Black Belt.
He trusts himself so much, and that's what I like about Witherspoon the most.
And honestly, on draft day, I think he's going to go higher than this.
I think so too. I think he's going to be a Raider.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's letting him get out of the top 10 because we saw it last year. If you can try
I'm glad you like him, Joe. I'm glad because he's going to be a Raider probably. I think he's going to be a Raider.
Well, like I said, I could care less if it's Gonzalez or Witherspoon. If the Raiders walk away with either one of them, I'm happy. If this happens where the Raiders and the Steelers walk away with both of them, I'm happy with that too. I like defensive backs, and I think both of them are great and could be. But that's why I'm looking at the draft, and I was like, Mike just took Nolan Smith at number 10 with Philly, and Witherspoon's still there. This is going to be a top trade option right here because people are going to be like, oh, this guy fell out of the top 10. We're coming up and getting him.
I would say also keep an eye on these wide receivers. I think teams could be very interested in some of these guys, but some teams don't necessarily need wide receiver, like the Jets in this part of the draft, for example.
So, Tony, this is where I had Houston's number 2 pick. I took Will Anderson. Now, 10 picks later, they're on the board again. Now, the 2 quarterbacks, they missed out on CJ Stroud because they passed on it. So do they go quarterback here and they have the Will Levis and Anthony Richardson on the board, or do they go somewhere else with Houston? And that's the great thing about Houston having this second pick is that they could do whatever they want. And like Tony said, they're not in a hurry to rebuild in 1 year. They have years, a 6-year deal with DeMeco Ryans where they can continue to build this team.
Yeah, there's a few places that I would like to go with this pick. I don't know. Like, if you didn't take quarterback at number 2, now all of a sudden you love them at number 12? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't, because when I had in my notes, I have them taking CJ Stroud. Like, I'm like, well, they have quarterback. So now I'm looking at edge. And I was looking at guys like Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy. Oh, man. But I also think there's an opportunity for them to get another wide receiver. The problem is now they don't have a quarter. Like, it's really like Davis Mills or Case Keenum. So are you drafting a cornerback there? Petrie's a nice safety, so I don't think they're looking at a guy like Brian Branch. But maybe, I don't know, Witherspoon going right before them in this spot.
And see, that's what made me do the Witherspoon trade even more, is because I'm looking at Houston going, oh, they might take him right there. So that's why a lot of teams would be interested in moving up to that. And even number 10, Mike, when you threw it out there, I was thinking number 10, but I was thinking I already had Tennessee in mind.
They have good – they signed Tunzel. I was looking at today at the other tackle they have there, Titus Howard. I don't think that's a real situation that they're at. They got Kenyon Green, so they got a guard. The only position that I think about that's here that's kind of tempting, but I just don't think they would do it, is start looking at the tight end position. That's still there, but I don't think I'm taking any of these guys for this team at this spot. Damn it. Why did this happen this way, Joe? You didn't just screw the draft over this.
Just do it, Tony. Just do it.
Let me get I'll get Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Ooh. Damn, that's messed up. They could have both CJ Stroud and JSN, but instead they don't end up with them.
The only reason that I'm not going quarterback is because if you didn't like the quarterback at 2, why would you like at 12? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't pass on a quarterback and then go, oh, well, he's still there. We got lucky. That's not how you draft in the NFL. You don't go, oh, we got lucky that he came back. Maybe you do that in the 4th or 5th round with a player. You don't do that with a quarterback in the 1st round.
Yeah, and it's just so specific for what Anthony Richardson does and what team does he fit with. That's not been what the Texans have been going after, the last couple quarterbacks they've taken swings on. They've been going after Davis Mills. You know what I mean? The guy that stands in the pocket and throws the ball to the receivers down the field. I think that they would pass on quarterback at 12 also, honestly, if they're still here. It's just crazy seeing him fall because the same shit's going to happen to the Patriots again that happened before if he keeps falling like this.
I just think bringing in a player like JSN, John Mechie's there, Nico Collins still needs to take a step at some point to be a solid 2 or 3 wide receiver. You can get some nice, easy completions to JSN. So let's bring him there. We'll work the run game with Dameon Pierce, and Case Keenum will have a Minnesota Vikings-like renaissance behind a great defense. Texans win the AFC South.
And
hey, but if you're the Houston Texans, you walk away with Will Anderson and Najiba. Are you happy with this? Are you happy, Tony? Are you like are you a fan base? Like you're going, yeah, we're building to the future. Or are you pissed off that you didn't get the quarterback on day one?
If I'm a fan, then I'm saying we better get Caleb Williams next year or one of these guys.
Yeah, I think that's the situation. Is if I would need to know there's a plan. Like I would need the GM. If I was a fan, I would need the GM or whatever to say like, yeah, this is what we're thinking about, you know. But
what about May? I don't know. Everybody's talking about Caleb Williams next year, but there's another quarterback next year too. His name is May out of North Carolina. That could be a top guy, and so that might fit Houston more than a Caleb Williams.
Whew.
Yeah, I mean, either one of them, I think will be up there, drafted in the top 5. I also think Spencer Rattler is going to have a chance to redeem himself this year in South Carolina. Like he's going to be in there making the conversation interesting.
This works out perfect
on the board with the New York Football Jets.
This works out perfect for the Jets, though. And no, I don't think they'd draft Anthony Richardson here, even if he fell to 13. I think that if the board goes exactly like this, they're taking a tackle. And I don't know which one it would be. Skoronski is kind of rated higher than Jones out of Georgia. But, there's worries similar to what Rashawn Slater had. Obviously, Rashawn Slater broke all of those, but Rashawn Slater is special. Rashawn Slater is special at the same time. So for the Jets here at 13, I'm going to go with the tackle out of Georgia, Broderick Jones, right? That's his name. Broderick is his first name. I keep seeing his name as B. Jones. So that's what I'm going with here. A Boley, big boy.
I think this is a good pick too, because if you get to camp and he looks like he's just ready to go and step in, you can move on from, I think they have Dwayne Brown, but he's like 38. Mekhi Becton, there's been photos of him where he's in really good shape. He's just had injury concerns. But if he can stay healthy, Elijah Vera Tucker is playing guard. If he can stay healthy in there, like now all of a sudden the offensive line just looks really great. I don't know if Jordan Phillips is trying to troll Aaron Rodgers, but it would be really funny if the Jets did draft a QB in the first round. Like the same reason why he's like upset with Green Bay for drafting Jordan Love. He gets to the Jets and they take
they do the same thing.
They take a quarterback in the first round. I would laugh so hard. That would be
man. The receivers are there for the Jets. They're going to be getting Aaron Rodgers. This is kind of the missing piece on their offensive line. You got to have a lot of faith in that defense going into the second year with Robert Saleh here. It's a good pick. I think
by draft night, we should know if Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets or not. So this could either be the Jets picks or it could be Green Bay's pick, right? If the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers and that deal falls out and never goes, would you still take the offensive tackle or would you take a quarterback here knowing if Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to the Jets?
I don't think I would like pull the lever and emergency draft a quarterback without the proper due diligence. They're not. I don't think it's gonna be Anthony Richardson. And they're another team where it's like they may be interested if the Rodgers trade falls through to move up in the draft, but I think that they're more likely to try and scalp a veteran quarterback off of one of the teams that have a little bit of depth.
And then Tony, you would be drafted for Green Bay at 15. So if Green Bay was on the clock at this time, what would they be looking at?
There's one player left for Green Bay that I would really like here, and so I'm not going to say who it is because you pick in front of me with New England. But I would not be looking at quarterback because I do believe that Jordan Love is going to be just fine. Like he might not reach the heights of Favre and Rodgers. Like, most likely he won't. Odds would say that he will not do that. There is a comment here from Jordan Phillips where he says that AR gets to learn behind a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think this is kind of the issue with Anthony Richardson, is that his game is not meant, like, he's not going to do what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Like, I don't think that he's ever going to be that type of player. So yes, there's a certain amount of professionalism and, learning defenses that you can learn from behind him. But also, Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem like he's like a super friendly, great teacher. Like, he doesn't seem like he's showing up early and breaking down tape. So I'm not sure that that's a great spot, a great veteran for him to be sitting behind. I would think Anthony Richardson would get served better behind Jimmy G, like somebody who seems like a real team guy and is at least the players like him. They love him. They cheer for him. Everyone who's played with him before, present, past, future, whatever. They love him.
If we're not careful here, we're going to see Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy in San Fran next year if we're not careful.
That'll be interesting. Yo, you're on the
I'm there with New England at 14. I got New England at 14, and I'm like, what am I going to do? There's so many different options that I could take at this spot with New England. Like, I can go quarterback if I wanted to because we've heard all the Mac Jones rumors and all that stuff. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. I could take the offensive tackle and Skoronski and go, hey, I'm walking away with him. But there's questions if he's actually an offensive tackle or maybe one of the best guards in the league. I don't care either way. I think New England would need an offensive lineman, which would be good. There's 2 cornerbacks on the board. Joey Porter Jr., would he be good? We already know what Bill Belichick can do with cornerbacks in this league and how he makes them really great, and the other teams bid on them and pay for him in free agency, and that don't work out for them. So we know how Bill Belichick can do it with that. And then there's a couple defensive linemen that I'm looking at in BRYCE and Miles Murphy, and even one guy, I don't know. I think this guy's going to go higher than we think, Will McDonald as an edge rusher. So I'm looking at all those guys, and I'm like, what would the Patriots do? Normally, the Patriots are good at trading back, and this would be one of those spots that they do. But I don't see a team that would come up here, and I think New England's going to be, pretty much have to make the trade or have to make the pick. And, boy, do I want to go with a defensive end right now because I really do. But I think I'm going to throw another curveball at you guys. I think I will. And I think I'm going to go with Zay Flowers, the wide receiver.
I love it. I mean, I don't love it in real life because you just ruined Zay Flowers' career, and he's also one of my favorite players in this draft. But that's a pick right there because Mac Jones is not succeeding because he's not good. Like, if Mac Jones were in this class, I think he'd be right up there talked about with the quarterbacks that are here. And I think that's why I'm a little confused about how the Panthers gave up so much to get up there. So, like, I think Mac Jones will be fine. It sucks that he's had a year that basically was wasted with a defensive coordinator running the offense, and now he's got to come back, and he's still got the Bills. The Jets have retooled and gotten themselves a quarterback, and the Dolphins are now another step in their process under Mike McDaniel. So now it's like he's in a really tough spot. It would have been better last year if he would have had weapons and a functioning offense to play in.
Yeah, I'm just taking another tool guy, somebody like Zay Flowers that they can move around, put him in different positions, like the New England Patriots like to do with their offense. And I don't know. I wanted to go defense, but I'm not going to do it at this moment. I had to go wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. I like this pick. So I think it's a really good fit. Zay Flowers seems like a Patriots guy, but like you're saying, Tony, they're going to make him grind. Like, he's not going to be this flashy, widely used wide receiver. They're still going to run the balanced offense. They're still going to give Ramondre Stevenson the ball a ton. I have him slightly over some of the other receivers in this class. I just think that his route running is next level, man. And a lot of people compare him to Brandon Cooks. And didn't the Patriots go after Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, they did, and they liked Brandon Cooks. I think they moved him, and they got really good draft capital for him.
There we go. Got some love from Pats Nation.
Pats Nation likes it. Pats Nation likes the pick.
Yeah, that's you go deep with burner accounts, Joe. I love how you.
It's like I got every team's burner account right here, and I'm just like, great pick, Joe.
No, I think it's a great pick, and I'm really hoping that Tyquan Thornton emerges this year as somebody that can stretch the field and make things more interesting. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't root for the Patriots to have success. They had 2 decades of success. So, like, there's players within the organization that I root for, and Zay Flowers would be out of that. You guys, the perfect pick has fallen to the Green Bay Packers.
Don't do it, Tony.
Skoronski.
Okay.
His grandfather played for the Packers. He grew up a Packers fan in Wisconsin. Like, everything works out. They need a guard. They don't need him to play tackle. So that's perfect. You can move him inside there, play him at guard. And if Bakhtiari gets hurt, maybe he does. He's played tackle. You could bump him out if there's an injury with one of the tackles there. But you draft him with the flexibility to play out there, but he plays guard. You still have the running game, which is going to need to be leaned on in the first year. I mean, even the head coach came out and said, we need to temper our expectations for Jordan Love. Way to set the bar high, coach. And then you get you build as much of a fortress in front of him to allow him to be able to step up into a nice, clean pocket. And I just think Skoronski's perfect. I mean, get to play for the team your grandfather played for. That'd be amazing.
It's true.
Yeah, the play for the team my grandfather played for.
It's a good pick, and that's why it's interesting to see how the tackles go, because, like you're saying, if he plays guard, let's say, that value of having the potential to move him out if someone gets hurt is immeasurable. And we saw it with the Chargers last year. Our entire season, and I know the Chargers season didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we made the playoffs. We made progress from the previous seasons, was saved. The entire season saved by Jamari Sawyer being able to move from guard to tackle when Rashawn Slater got hurt in week 2 of the season.
Yeah, Herbert doesn't leave the season standing upright if Storm Norton has to play left tackle.
Yeah, and Trey was like in and out on the other side too, so it was very, very clutch for it to end up that way. All right, the Washington Commanders here are on the clock, and I would have a tough time deciding if I was Washington, but I definitely would be going DB. And the 2 guys that I would like here is the kid out of Maryland, who I just think is just super crisp, very disciplined, technically sound, doesn't have the crazy playmaking that Christian Gonzalez or Witherspoon is showing on tape, but just seems like he's going to be a real steady cornerback in the league. And then safety Brian Branch, who would be the first safety off the board here, and really, in my opinion, the only safety like worth drafting in the first couple of rounds of the draft this year. But I think that Washington, because of that huge gap at safety and that you're going to have to wait until maybe the late 2nd, 3rd round until safeties are going off again, I think Washington will pair this guy with Forrest and draft Alabama safety Brian Branch. So on the board.
Sure, we were seeing a quarterback go right here.
No, they believe in Sam Howell is what they're saying, and I think that if Washington is going to make a move on a quarterback and they're about to sell this team, they're going to go to somebody that improves the value of the team and trade for Lamar Jackson.
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that too. I think the Lamar Jackson, but I thought for sure with the way the draft was going, I was like, let's see a quarterback right here.
But we should see quarterback somewhere here if the Titans rumors of trading up are true. Joe, you got all control of the Titans here in this draft. You moved back already, and they still have the quarterbacks on the board. Would they do it here?
Like, you can't. You're not the GM. I'm the GM.
That's all I'm asking. It was a question. It wasn't a statement.
Can't be just coming in here trying to give away spoilers right when I'm on the clock. I think they go for Lamar.
You think they go Lamar?
It's weird not hearing Ringo's name. Is he talking about Christian Gonzalez? Is that his nickname, Ringo? Or is he talking about Keely Ringo?
Maybe saying about Keely Ringo, I think is sneaky in play for one of my picks later. I don't want to say when.
There you go, Mike. Getting some love from the Eagles fans.
Got y'all. I'm a big Philly fan as well. He's talking about Keely. Yeah, I'm not Keely's biggest fan in the world, but I see what people see in him. I think there's some potential there. I think he could be a better safety.
Oh, really?
I think he could be, yeah.
I don't know about that.
He gives receivers a little bit too much space in tight coverage, but I haven't digged enough to like really give some solid takes yet on him. So I'll give it some time.
Yeah, it's weird too because the way Georgia dominates everybody. I think it's hard to grade all of the players.
Who is carrying who? Is that D-line carrying the secondary? Is the secondary carrying the D-line?
Yeah.
I got a tough pick here.
You do, and that's I'm trying to give you some time here.
Tennessee needs a lot.
It's like there's a lot of stuff going on. If you're the Tennessee Titans GM, I know you want to improve a little bit everywhere because you're a good playoff team and you've been a playoff team for a couple of years, but it's like they're stuck and they're not like moving forward and they haven't been able to move forward. And you can say that Ryan Tannehill has been the guy that's helping you out get there, but are you really? And you just took Malik Willis last year, so do you want to take another quarterback and possibly mess up the psyche in that quarterback room? You will need to take offensive line because you need offensive line, but is there an offensive lineman here worthy of taking? And then I'm looking at the wide receiver position, and you're like, damn, we do need wide receivers. Like, we traded our best one, and he went to the Super Bowl last year. And all we have is Treylon Burks now, and we're looking like, okay, what do I do if I'm the Tennessee Titans? Because there's a lot. And when I made this trade, I was like, I'm just going to trade down, and then I'll get Skoronski later, and he could play either guard or offense. Well, he's off the board now because thanks to Tony, he's off the board. So I'm looking, and I'm like, this one's a tough one for me if I'm Tennessee because I kind of want to take – this is where I kind of want to take Will Levis, and this is where I'm like, do I take Will Levis with Tennessee and see what they can do? And you put Will Levis behind Ryan Tannehill, let him learn. I'm really tempted to do it. So what are you guys thinking? What
can I say one thing? I think the Tennessee Titans found themselves in this position last year. They were like, guys, teams had a first-round grade on Malik Willis. You heard all that? Like he's in the third round. We should take him. They found themselves in the same position last year, and not just taking a player in the third round that could have potentially helped add depth to their team last year and already had a year of development. Instead, they took a quarterback that they weren't really ready for to bring in. Like Malik Willis wasn't really going to translate in that offense. If I was taking one of these quarterbacks here, I would lean Will Levis. I think that he could come in and benefit from a year behind Ryan Tannehill. And if the wheels fall off, maybe he does get to play the final 4 or 5 games of the season type of a situation. I think I don't know that this was voted on or talked about, or maybe they're going to vote on it the second round of the winter meeting or whatever meetings they have in the NFL that are coming up. But like, if they push the trade deadline back, Ryan Tannehill is one of those guys where like, if there's an injury, I could see Ryan Tannehill being moved if things are going bad for them, and you need to bring in a veteran later to save your season. But I don't know. I don't know that the Titans are in a situation where 2 years in a row they're like, oh, these guys, we got to take them because they're still here.
Yeah. I think they want someone like Anthony Richardson, but like you're saying, you're in the same position you were last year that you swung and missed on a guy. I think that if the Titans were on the clock here, they would take Deonte Banks or Darnell Washington. Call me crazy.
I think you need to watch what you're talking about, Mike. Stop giving names.
As you guys were talking, I think I made up my mind, and I'm going a completely different direction than what I was thinking. But I mean, I thought about it, but I'm looking at Mike Vrabel, and I'm thinking this guy wants a good blocker. Somebody come in and do it. And the first tight end is off the board with Dalton Kincaid.
Oh, not even Washington. Kincaid.
Okay. Wow.
Don't you feel like, though, if they're looking at tight ends, like Darnell Washington kind of fits the Mike Vrabel mold a little more than Kincaid? Kincaid's more like for like those high-flying type of guys that want to be flashy, you know? Maybe fits as the Kelsey replacement in KC or something.
Well, they have no wide receivers, Mike. So I think they're doing it where they get a good position player, they get somebody to help the offense, and they're not happy with like all the wide receivers, so they get one of the tight ends that go on there because that's still getting you an offensive weapon to go along with it. So I think that's why I went that way instead. And I I just don't see all the tight ends falling as far. So, and they traded down. So if they really wanted a quarterback, they would have took him earlier, I think. So why not trade down and get a tight end?
Yeah, they need a tackle too, right?
Yeah,
I believe. So I would have looked at tackle, and then I also would have looked at Kalijah Cansey. If you can put him next to Jeffrey Simmons, all of a sudden that interior pass rush is really nice. So those are two players that I would have looked at. I don't want to say too many names. So now we're at the same position before. Where last time I said, just because you didn't like a quarterback at 2, now all of a sudden you like it at 12. Now I have them picking for another team that had a pick where they passed on 2 quarterbacks.
But this is a different situation. Jared Goff is a great quarterback, is good. And quarterback wasn't a need like it was for Houston or these other teams. Where you're looking at Detroit, where they in this draft, they were able to take a Jalen Carter, and now you're like, you got your top guy. Now you kind of have that luxury to sit back. So it's not that big of a deal, I think, Tony, if they took him at this spot.
And that's the thing, Joe. You made the point for me. They're in a different situation where this player is not going to be asked to play in year 1 because they have Jared Goff. So I am going to take one of the 2 first-round projected quarterbacks.
What?
Here's the thing. I think if you're going to take this swing, you have to take the biggest swing possible. And the Detroit Lions select Anthony Richardson. And you bring him in there, and maybe even they do some of the fun stuff we've seen in the past where it's like we just have this athlete, and in weeks 9 or 10, he has like a couple of goal line packages where you just let him get out there and you're like, hey, we're going to run the option. We're going to have a backfield where it's almost like a shotgun dual running back setup where you got Swift on one side and Montgomery on the other, and the ball's being snapped to Anthony Richardson, and the defense is going, coach, what do we do? Do we go this way with the speed? Are we going this way with the thunder? And then you still have the option for him to, find ways to maybe get the ball to, a speedy big wide receiver like Jameson Williams on like a little fade route or something fun. I'm gonna say he could get there and he could sit for 2 years and just learn the position and the pace. And I'm also a big fan of Ben Johnson. I think that he just seems to put everybody in great places to succeed, and that's that environment I think is very encouraging since Dan Campbell got there. It just seems better.
And I think that this Lions team is going to take a lot of pride in what they can do with this offensive line paired with Anthony Richardson if this happens and this guy's picked at the 18th overall pick. Great pick, Tony, because I was going to take him next if you didn't. So,
yeah. Well, I was very close to going with Darnell Washington in this spot for the Lions. He feels like when I do my final mock draft, it might be Washington at that spot because he feels like what Dan Campbell wishes he was in the NFL. Like, I wanted to be 6'7" and just maul people at the line of scrimmage and have giant hands.
So this is tough for me now because I was going to take Richardson, keep him in Florida, put him with a bunch of fun offensive players that have done stuff with Tom Brady already, but he's now off the board. I think what Tampa would be thinking, even, they're probably not thinking quarterback necessarily at this part in the draft. They're probably like, we'll keep an eye out. And if it happens, it happens. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Will Levis. I don't think I would take him in the first round. So I think that I'll pivot here with Tampa, and I'm looking at the depth chart, and they could use another DB. They could use another, defensive lineman for depth. But I think what they need most at this part will be tackle again. And I'm here on the board for tackle again. And I think that Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, I believe, will be my favorite available guy.
Oh, I like him.
That's who I'm going to draft for Tampa here, who's kind of fallen a little bit. Need to do more research on the tackles, but the little bit that I saw on him against Anderson was impressive. So,
no, I like him, Mike. He's a big guy, and I actually thought about taking him, earlier with with Tennessee. I think he's a good fit down there in Tampa Bay.
Congrats to the Buccaneers fans.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good pick. The Bucks at some point are going to have a quarterback, and if you have Tristan Wirfs on one side and then another big tackle on the other side, now all of a sudden things are looking pretty good for whatever quarterback is drafted when Tampa trades away 3 first-round picks to move up and get Williams.
Some things are happening here, Tony. I don't know if you're looking at the draft board. I know you're drafting for the Chargers here, but
I need you to be quiet, Mike. Don't worry.
It's Seattle. They already got Ken Walker.
I know, but we got Joe in front of us who's always trying to ruin things for people.
So Seattle already took an edge rusher, one of the needs that they needed, right? In Van Ness. Maybe because I've been talking about how they got rid of all their defensive line. They might go defensive line again. Why not? Sure it up. Pete Carroll has been a defensive guy, always going at him. Do they do that? They need other positions. I think they have some other holes. And I'm looking here and I'm looking around and I'm like, who's Pete Carroll going to take? And I think guy here, Tony, I think they might take. There's 2 guys I'm leaning towards, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm doing it.
Well, so one thing that I would think about. What do you have? I don't know what you have as what you would think their needs are for them. I think if you already addressed D-line, they feel pretty good. They feel like they're still going to get some nice players later in the draft. I think if you could get Geno Smith, another wide receiver.
See, and that's another spot that I was looking at.
So
I was looking at wide receiver too.
Because if Tyler Lockett, at some point the wheels have to fall off. He just can't continue to be the same player. And maybe I'm in that mindset where it's like, hey, Father Time's going to come at some point, and it just never comes for Tyler Lockett. But yeah. I think that I would probably go wide receiver, or I would look tight end position at this spot. I think they have Noah Fant under contract for 1 more year, but but
we've seen the way that Pete Carroll uses multiple tight ends. And even having Noah Fant shouldn't change you.
I think if you could get another tight end in there in this spot to block, I don't know that they would go tight end. I think I could see them taking a wide receiver, whichever one you think is the best. This is one where, you love Josh Downs a lot. He feels like he would be a Pete Carroll kind of guy. He can do a lot of different things. He's really strong and compact, and I think he could be a nice slot receiver. I personally would draft Jordan Addison for them at this spot, but I think wide receiver feels like a really good direction for the Seahawks at 20.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was leaning towards more anyways, was the wide receiver position. I mean, when you look at Seattle, you're like, what else do they need? But they drafted 2.
You just said, shut up, Joe.
Wow.
Jeez.
Fernando going to come in here and just tell me to shut up right before the Chargers pick. I might just spoil this pick now. I might just be like, hey, it's a mock draft. I can take who I want.
I will hit the reset button. Full Nintendo and yank the cord out of the wall on that if you ruin this for me.
I left in Porta Beverage. You still haven't picked anyone yet, Joe? Jesus.
Yeah, I'm taking a pick.
Okay, here we go. I don't think Hyatt will go first round, Jordan. Do you guys think
Hyatt is going to be my pick?
You're going with Oh, okay.
You're going with Elijah Cansey?
I'm taking the other defensive line. For some reason, I don't know why. I just think Seattle is going to emphasize on fixing their defense. I'm going more defensive line. Pete Carroll loves defense, and I think he just keeps going.
I'm really good with that pick. I could see Pete Carroll going in that direction. 2 first-round picks. We're gonna just try and recreate the Legion of Boom.
And you walk away with Van Ness. You walk away with Van Ness and Cansey on your defensive line. I mean, can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, and Jalen Carter obviously is like the highlight interior defensive lineman of this class, but guys that I had like edge of first round grades on, we always see guys go at the end of the first round like this at this position, was Cansey, who he took, and Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. Love both of those guys. So there you go.
Oh, I don't know if Fernando's still in the house, but Fernando, Chargers are on the clock, and Tony has his pick. You got any inside information for Tony right now with this pick?
So if you guys don't know, Fernando Ramirez, Chargers insider. Fernando, if this is exactly how the board goes, please tell us who the Chargers would pick, who you would pick, and who you think the Chargers will pick.
Oh, you want me to do this right now?
Well, Tony, I want you to make the pick.
On the Chargers, I'm looking at Will Levis. He's on the board. Will Levis still here. You need a quarterback. You might as well take.
I'm talking about Fernando, who is closer to the situation.
Fernando says Michael Mayer.
Anyone else I know in this world, he's saying Michael Mayer would be the pick here.
So I agree. I agree with him. I would hope that it would be Darnell Washington over Michael Mayer, but I think that they would go tight end. But Tom Telesco's on the clock. This is my clock, and I'm going to do whatever I want with this clock.
Do it.
Oh, Cyrus Torrance going right now. Woo!
So here's the way that I would approach this situation. Which player is going to help my star quarterback and get the most touches at the position? Who's going to get the most reps, do the most damage for this offense and in year one? And that is the running back from the University of Texas, Bijan Robinson. If Bijan is here at number 20, I would be angry every time I watched him put up 1,500 yards, all-purpose yards, and 15 touchdowns for another team every year for the rest of his career.
Hear that, Austin Eckler? 2 Charger fans just told you to fuck off, and you're not worth your money.
I get it. But like in year one, I hear a lot of people go, "Oh, we want to bring in a wide receiver." I don't see any wide receivers that are in this draft that are going to make a contribution in year one with the 3 wide receivers that are ahead of them. Tight end, I don't think that that's why I like Darnell Washington, and I hope that if they did that, they drafted that is who they would take, because then at least then you're getting an absolute stud as the 6th blocker, right? Are we going defense? Do we think that Staley really needs to make a jump from 29 to 23 to 17 in the first round of this draft? I guess you could talk me into going Miles Murphy. I'm going to support whoever the pick is, but the person that's going to play the most snaps and contribute year one, and especially on this offense, now you have Eckler and Bijan Robinson in the same backfield for 1 year. If they're not going to sign Eckler and they're going to keep pissing me off with all this, we don't pay running backs over 28 anymore, and you're going to get rid of one of my favorite players, then you better replace him. And why not at 20? Let's get the best.
Hey,
get the best one in the draft.
Austin Eckler, you're 100% correct. Disrespectful. The Charger fans don't deserve a guy like you. Look at this. Already looking to replace you after everything you've done. 40 touchdowns in 2 years. And Charger fans are like, get out of here, boy. We got somebody else better than you.
Here's my question.
Disrespect is 100% correct.
Mr. Chargers hater. Didn't the Raiders draft a running back last year?
Yeah.
Isn't there running back? Whoa.
Did the Chargers draft a running back?
Whoa. Isn't their running back also having contract concerns?
Yeah, and he's getting $10 million, $4 million more than Austin Eckler is right now.
That's true. But the thing is about Austin Eckler is he's not a 3-down back, and he knows that. He's been trying to help train the next running back that's going to be able to be the 1-2 in this offense with him. You get – and this is going to screw him over. But if you get Bijan Robinson, either Austin Eckler is going to be done after 1 year, going to be a lot less valuable after 1 year when you see what Bijan Robinson does in this offense, or traded on day 2 of the draft. One of those 3 things is going to happen to Eckler.
Me picking Bijan does not mean that I don't like or want him on the team. There is a world in which he can still be on the team and sign a 2-year extension. They wouldn't do that. But I'm saying if the draft comes, if you come to this spot, I would ultimately love Tom Telesco to trade back. If I could have my own, if I was like Tom, if you get to 21 and there's still 2 tight ends on the board that we like, and there's still a running back out there potentially that we like, and there's still edge rushers that are there, yes, Tom, find somebody, anybody, trade back and end up with 4 picks in the top 85 and bring in a bunch of contributors, because the Chargers on paper don't really have a spot where it's like, oh, they're going to have somebody come in and they're going to contribute to a bunch in year one. That one player that would come in and contribute a bunch in year one right now would be Bijan. That's why I'm drafting him.
And we're not doing like a anti-Austin Eckler rant here like Joe's rallying up in this chat right now. Everyone is going back and forth about Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is still Austin Eckler. He can still do all the things that we believed in him before. We just have the understanding of his contract situation and his skill set. It's just not fitting in the Kellen Moore offense the same way that it did in the whatever last year's offense was. Check downs to Austin Eckler. It was the offense. I didn't understand it. Joe's yelling now and his mic's not even on. And the Saints are on the clock. What is going on?
Joe, you're muted. Come on. This is a professional operation.
What is going on? This draft is breaking down at 1.5 hours.
He's still muted?
Why are you wearing powder blue?
He must be talking to TikTok people. He's got to be live on another thing. Because you can hear us, Joe, right?
No, he knows.
Look,
he knows his mic isn't working.
No, I know. I'm going off on a rant, and I just don't want to put it out there because I can't believe, like, I had to mute myself of all this Austin Eckler hate that you guys are throwing out there. I'm like, mute myself.
Who said hate?
This is crazy. Fernando's in the house. Fernando, get Austin Eckler on the phone and let him know the disrespect that he's getting from these Charger fans right now. Oh my God, it's cool.
This is Austin Eckler running past the Raiders in his 1-2 punch of Bijan Robinson. And
we're gonna move on. Mike was Baltimore. Baltimore has traded the pick to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints are moving up right now, and it's an easy pick for me. I'm the New Orleans Saints. I'm not going. So the trade, I'm moving up. The New Orleans Saints are now on the board, and they're going with Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State.
I like it. I like it a lot. Good organization, good fit, and addresses a need that they have.
Yeah, and it doesn't come up as a need, but I think it is a bigger need than they did. And then they try to go out there. They got Carr. They got some wide receivers. They got their offense going. I think they're good on offense. I think they go out there and get another DB to go along with Lattimore.
Maybe I missed something. Is Deontay Banks still on the board?
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, yes.
You like Porter better than him?
I like Porter just a little bit better, yes.
Okay. Just making sure because I love Deontay Banks. I think that you see.
And like we said with the wide receiver position, when I went wide receiver Johnson earlier, it's more. It doesn't matter who they take at this spot. I'm looking more at the position. So if they went the other way, it's cool with me. But Potato Monkey, what's up? There you go. Asking where Joey Porter goes. There he goes. He went to a trade at number 22.
Trade up for Porter.
So now I'm on the clock again. Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah, are you the Vikes?
Yeah, I'm the Minnesota Vikings too, and I'm looking. There's a lot of I don't know. Minnesota Vikings are in a tough spot right here. There's a lot of things they could do. They need defense. We saw last year that defense. They had their offense to do whatever they wanted, to go out there, and then what cost them in the playoffs was their defense. So I'm looking at defensive guys right now. What are you guys thinking for Minnesota?
I would pick Deontay Banks. This guy is free falling on this board right now. Once those top two corners go, I feel like teams are going to want this guy. He is so technically put together, and his footwork is so good. I think he's going to be a good man coverage corner in the NFL.
Yeah, who's left rushing the passer for them? Yeah. That's something that I would look at, but maybe that's something they would address with veterans.
And Jordan Addison is still on the board at this spot too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. You add another wide receiver to the spot. You might be going there. But then I'm looking at Kirk Cousins' contract, and maybe they want to replace Kirk Cousins next year. And you got Will Levis on the board still. Do I take the Will Levis after he's been falling? It's a tough decision. Like I'm saying, it's a good one for Minnesota at this time. It's a good place for him.
Jordan, he's technically on the team still, but he demanded a trade, so it's kind of like on the fence. We don't know what's going to happen with him, or demanded a release. I don't even think he asked for a trade.
Yeah, I think it was like a weird thing on Twitter where he was like saying goodbye to everybody, and then they gave him like maybe a raise or a 1-year extended. They did something, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm still here."
No big deal.
Will Levis is interesting in this situation because I think that would mean final year for Kirk Cousins, which is another interesting spot, and maybe another veteran quarterback that could be, sort of an injury. We need a guy, deadline, like what happened to the 49ers last year.
Yeah.
I think that another guy that will be interesting, and he's more of a late first round, like late first round guy for me, but I think BJ Ojulari out of LSU, he's a guy that kind of fits a similar build to Danielle Hunter, and he could learn a little bit from him, maybe be a little healthier. Yeah,
I also like Miles Murphy. We're hitting the spot too. Did you pick for Minnesota yet, Joe? Or are you still?
Not yet. The guy I almost clicked on was Will McDonald. I mean, I'm telling you, I like Miles Murphy and I like Will McDonald here. I like both of them, and those are the two guys I really like. But I think I'm going to just go with my gut and who I think, and it's going to be Will Levis right here.
Okay. This is another spot where I think it would be great because Kirk Cousins is a professional and he is going to help him out. Not like go over and above and beyond and sacrifice time with his family to help him. But I think in the room, what he's seeing, he gets it. Because he also knows what it's like to be in a room where it's highly competitive. Rookie year, he gets drafted with RG3 and him are in Washington in the same room where there was already a bunch of crazy stuff going on because the Shanahans or whoever didn't even want to draft RG3 at that time. It was like, no, we're going to wait and get Kirk Cousins, Michigan State guy. I'll rep anybody from Michigan. So Kirk Cousins is always good in my book.
And this basically locks that Justin Jefferson will leave the Vikings eventually.
Well, and it's in there. So, didn't a Viking fan just tell me quarterback?
Yeah,
like, listen to the Vikings.
You listen to him. Another thing here was tight end, and we just talked about it, JJ. If you want to rewind like 2 minutes, the Vikings can go like 20 directions with this pick at 23.
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many options that you can go, and I would want to go wide receiver if one of the other guys were still on the board and they went a little bit higher. I might have took them, but I like Addison here. But I'm like, I think they're looking like, okay, what are we going to do with Kirk Cousins? They know that Kirk Cousins isn't going to be around much longer, and they're not a team that passed on Will Levis earlier, so they're all like, oh, Will Levis has fallen on us. We could take this chance now and do it now. And who knows? Maybe we're getting closer, and the 49ers are like, hey, we'll take Kirk Cousins because our quarterbacks aren't looking good this season.
And teams don't necessarily think the same way that I do. But when I'm building receiving cores, I always like to have a 3 set of receivers that are going to start on the field at once that attack each part of the field. And it's the same thing with the Chargers and Jordan Addison, and that's who I think will be the best receiver available right now. Is just he works the same part of the field that Keenan Allen works. He works the same part of the field, and it's Justin Jefferson. He works every part of the field, but his strengths are so similar. Like, I want a guy, if I'm the Vikings, I would rather have Quentin Johnson, you know what I mean? Or someone that's going to take the top off of the defense for Jefferson. It's tough. Yeah. Fernando's out of here. Fernando, Bijan Robinson to the Chargers. Enough with the tight end stuff. We got to start pushing this.
It's not going to happen. I don't think there's any chance that they're taking him, but since it's my mock and my choice, I'm doing it.
Whatever you want. It's the first one, too.
Yes. Okay, Jordan, I'm on the clock with the Jags, and this is exactly what I'm thinking. If you're in a spot where Mayer and Washington are still here at tight end, I would think that you get 2 guys that are both going to be more that traditional sort of wide, like end of the line tight end, where you just like right there, here we go. You could have really fun packages with Ingram and either one of these guys. But I'm not doing it. And I think in real life, it would be the good, smart pick. Jags need a cornerback, I think. And this is Mike's guys going here, right?
Finally.
Deontay Banks to the Jags. Like,
pick.
Yeah, it would be more fun. I am in full agreement with Jordan that picking Darnell Washington in this spot and pairing him up will be great, but I think the Jaguars need cornerback. I wrote that down as when I wrote down for the Jaguars, the positions of need went in order. I put cornerback, D-line, tight end. I was thinking more interior, not as much of the exterior, but.
Well, that makes this easy for the Giants. Works out perfectly for them. This draft couldn't have gone any better for them. I've had Jordan Addison, JSN, and Zay Flowers. If one of the three fall to 25, the Giants are going to take them, and it's Jordan Addison. So that's who I'm going to take. I'm not even going to take up too much of your guys' time on this one. I think that they would nail this. They would send this card to Roger Goodell's little desk and podium up there on the stage as soon as they possibly can. They wouldn't even believe it actually happened, probably.
So the only and I like it. The only thing is like it's just another small wide receiver. Like it feels like the Giants have collected the smallest collection of wide receivers that they could find outside of like Darius Slayton is big, but he's kind of just, go get it. You're gonna run 15 go routes a game, and then the other big guy is Waller at tight end.
I just think that Addison, he is such a good route runner, especially with like the underneath and short to intermediate conversion stuff. When teams load the box to try and stop Saquon Barkley, he's going to get a lot of 3rd and 3s and stuff where they go, okay, we'll play action it. And now your DB in the slot is about to get cooked up by Addison. I was thinking another problem, Tony, is everyone in this class is small. Like you can't get big receivers right now.
But I know, and that's why I just keep wondering if Cedric Tillman from Tennessee is going to sneak into the first round. Is a team like the Giants going to go, hey, in 2021, when you were healthy, you outperformed Jalen Hyatt. Like you were really, really good. And then last year you weren't good, but you were playing through a foot or knee or ankle or something like that last year. But he's 6'3", 215. Like Joe took Quentin Johnson in the top 10 and they're essentially like similar players, and Tillman played and dominated games in the SEC against NFL level talent every game. JJ Nolan, I like the support here of the Chargers take here. I'm with it. Big fan, and whatever your thumbnail is also fun too, bright and colorful.
How did this even happen where I get the Raiders and Joe gets the Cowboys? I think he rigged it on purpose.
Who set this up like this? It's literally just the order of our names by age. Like that's all. There's nothing. You know what messed you up?
What's your thoughts? I know there's a lot of injury concerns on him, but I just think that when you talk about like ceiling, maybe he has as high a ceiling as anyone. What's your thoughts on the LSU wide receiver, Boutte?
I honestly don't. I don't know enough. I
thought maybe you looked at it.
I didn't. I did look at him, and then you see the highlights, and it's like, oh, the highlights are fun. But I didn't go back and watch any of the games or anything. When I hear people talk about him, they just talk about how disappointing he is and how he doesn't have a motor and like how sometimes he shuts it down. But I don't know. Maybe it's like you don't want to get hurt. Quarterback play is bad or whatever. I think he's definitely intriguing on the right team. Like all of a sudden, like if he ends up on the Chiefs and he's like, oh shit, I'm going to work super hard because I get to play with Patrick Mahomes. Now that's exciting. If he ends up on like the Buccaneers, he's like fucking Baker Mayfield. Like he's not going to be as into it. But I don't know. It depends.
I don't know. It's just like these LSU wide receivers. Like when you put on his highlights and you see what his best plays, you're like, damn, this guy is like these other LSU wide receivers. But then he has all the concerns that all the LSU wide receivers bring to the league as well. And for some reason, they kind of all work out except for what? Kadarius Toney was an LSU guy, wasn't he? Like they all kind of work out for second and third
was
round
Florida,
picks.
I believe.
Okay, yeah, he was, but I don't know. He's just an intriguing prospect because there's so little on him because of injuries. He might
For
be.
me, the injuries are one thing. It's more so when you hear people talking about that we're close to the situation, they're like, yeah, sometimes at practice he just didn't bring it. Like that's one position where I want the wide receiver to be a little cocky and a little bit like, oh, I get first rep, I dominate everything. There's not a cornerback in this league, let alone on my own team, that can check me. Like I'm more into that. Zero is already saying who he wants for Dallas.
This is the pick.
And I think these guys would stop talking. I could get my pick in. And that's exactly where I was going. They missed out on the running back early. They go with the tight end. It's not. I think the defensive line would have been better for them. I know their defensive line did pretty good last year. I don't think tight end is as big of a need. But when you got Jake Ferguson and Hendershot as your tight ends, and you can add a guy like Mayer in there, you do it. And this is exactly what they did. So there you go. I got it in there for you.
It's a good one.
It is a good one, and I think that this will be a really good, solid Jason Witten all over again. You know, like we're just a guy who goes out and strings together a borderline Hall of Fame career. You know, like,
and I could have did Dallas dirty. I could have went and got somebody that nobody ever heard of just because I wanted to, because I don't like the Cowboys. But no, I hooked you up with a good tight end. You're welcome.
Okay.
No pressure, Tony. I'm just saying no pressure with this pick because last year they passed on Andrew Booth for Kyrie Elam. So
do we want fun pick or what I think they should do, or what I would do if I were the Buffalo?
What you would do?
Do we want to have a fun one? And these are both what I would do, obviously. But like, do we want it to be fun or do we want it to be like, oh, that makes sense? I would do that.
Let's go with fun. Let's first
go
draft.
with fun. Okay,
first draft.
It's the first draft, and it is the fun one. I am a fan of Khalil Shakur, but we don't need an offensive line. We don't need running backs. We got Josh Allen. We need more wide receivers. So let's go get somebody in the slot here. And this guy's electric, but he's a little small, and people are afraid of his size. Ironically, his name is Tank. Let's go get Tank Dell for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I think that adding him with Stephon Diggs, because I don't think they're keeping Gabe Davis, and I do think at some point they're going to address wide receiver, that getting Josh Downs or somebody, because last year they had to bring back Cole Beasley. Like that is something that Josh Allen wants. He wants a playmaker in the slot where they can keep Stephon Diggs working outside and they can throw some go balls to Gabe Davis, but he is not materialized as that guy. If you watch Tank Dell or Josh Downs, these are guys smaller in size, but they're going to be nice in there.
Which one were you thinking, Tony?
I'm going to go with Tank Dell just because it's for fun. If I was really going to make the pick, they better get the guard from Florida. They better go get Osiris Torrance. Like they need to get that
Del from Houston?
Yeah. You want to watch fun highlights? Watch Tank Dell.
Yeah.
They are a lot of fun.
I highly suggest, and I think he's a guy that could be a surprise pick on day one, but he's probably going to be a day two pick, not a day three pick. Just go watch the Senior Bowl stuff, man. He's a phenomenal route runner.
Yeah.
This receiving class is just so confusing because the size concerns are there for everybody.
But you could see him succeeding with Josh Allen, right? Like you could see a
situation
where it's like, oh, he's going to be the third option on a lot of these plays. He's going to cook most of these situations that you put him in.
I think so. I got back-to-back picks here. Wow, look at us go.
Yeah, you made that trade. So
for the Bengals, I thought Michael Mayer was going to fall, and this was going to be like a match made in heaven type of situation. And I like Darnell Washington. I just think that the Bengals throw the ball so much. Joe Mixon's on flex right now, in and out of trouble with the law, so I don't even know if he's going to play next year. Like, how much are the Bengals going to lean on the rushing attack versus the passing attack? It's definitely going to be the passing attack still. And Darnell Washington, yes, I think he can be a good receiver. just think his strength is going to be going to a team like who's up next. Well, maybe a little bit of spoilers there for you, but I think that Cincinnati might pivot if Michael Mayer isn't here or Dalton Kincaid isn't here. They'd probably be tempted by Luke Musgrave, honestly, and go towards the interior D-line, help out the defense a little bit, help out the pass rush and the rush defense. And I think I'm going to go with my guy Mozzie Smith, who is my second favorite D tackle right now out of Michigan. Just he's got like unique athleticism and bend for the inside of the D-line, and that just I think is going to get an NFL team going at this part in the draft.
He's a monster.
He is.
I really like watching him play. Yeah, he's one of the exciting players on Michigan's defense. There's another guy that like I love DJ Turner. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch DJ play at all. Like he's Michigan. He's going to be probably later day 2 cornerback.
He ran a 4.2.
He can fly, but he's just a really good football player, really smart football player too. He's one of those guys where like he feels like a Raider, and I'm going to be crushed if he ends up on the Raiders or the Chiefs. Ugh, I can't handle it. I won't be able to handle it.
I like your pick here. I think Smith is gaining a lot more traction as we get closer to the draft. So it wouldn't surprise me that in mock 2 or 3, he actually moves from 28 to 20. 19 area. You know what I mean? Somewhere in that area. Yeah, I could see him moving up.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And I think that the only thing that's going to move him up on mocks and a lot of people's mocks, especially, just the fans like this that make mocks, is just watching his tape at all, watching one play, because he just stands out the second you put it on.
And Tony mentioned it. Like, this is a guy that I would have hoped that the Raiders could target in the second round. I don't know if he'll stick around because, like you said, you just took him number 28 overall. But I was like, when I was doing my mock draft with the Raiders, I was like, man, if they could stay at 7 and get Smith in the second round, it'd be a nice draft. But I don't think he'll be around in that second round.
If he is, he'll be a nice player in year 1, I think, for any team. I could see the Saints, wherever they were picking at in this draft, also being a destination for him.
Yeah, I could have stayed at number 29, which would have been the Saints the next pick, and took him, but I moved up with the Saints and took Joey Porter Jr.
Jordan brought up something about Mozzie that I was going to be like, don't worry, he'll never be a Charger.
What is this thing with the D tackles this year? All getting in trouble.
That's why I like Jordan coming out. Zero, that's the guy. This is the guy I think Zero's onto somebody. Cam Smith. I think Cam Smith is being underlooked, and I really do like Cam Smith. I don't know if I like him better than the other cornerbacks that we've taken off the board, but I do like Cam Smith somewhere around this area. And I was actually looking at him right now, but I don't have a pick left.
I think that he'll be a day 2. I think he'll be there on day 2. There's a lot of corners for him.
It's really weird because I don't watch cornerbacks the same way that Mike does, but there's another cornerback, last name Rush. Give me 1 second. I can't think of his first name, but they both play for South Carolina, and Rush went to the Senior Bowl. Cam Smith's a junior, and they were like, and people, Jim Nagy, I think it was, on one of the podcasts I was listening to, was talking about, he's like, this guy's getting all the first round love. He's like, but I could make an argument that Rush is the better, more ready NFL player. And all of a sudden it's like, when you start hearing people talk about it, it kind of, it levels off your hype that you might've had for that person. So I think it'll be interesting to see where he gets drafted, because there is
Darius Rush. He's projected around the 100th pick.
There you go. And another guy, of course, Keely Ringo, who I think just his skill set has people's radars open. And then a guy that no one's talking about out of Kansas State, Julius Brents. Just feel like he's going to be such a safe pick to be a really good CB2 for a team somewhere.
And I like another guy, Mike Hodges Tomlinson. He got the Tomlinson last name, the baller last name. I actually like him a little bit too, but not enough to take him first round. But I like him later on. So, like, if we're talking about cornerbacks, maybe that's why some of these fall, because there's so many options later on that you could be like, okay, I'm good with him.
And once we get out of like Joey Porter and we get out of Witherspoon's not even that big. I should say Deontay Banks and Christian Gonzalez. We start to have another size problem with the corners too. Like a guy, I love his skill set. I think that he would be a top pick if he had 30 more pounds on him. Is Emmanuel Forbes, but he's so small. He's ridiculously small.
I think there's some really fun, good nickel corners in this league.
Yeah,
the one that you brought up, Mike, about Julius Brents, I was like, I really hope he ends up being a Charger because he feels a little like Michael Davis, like somebody who's underappreciated but long, athletic, tackle.
He seems like he's gonna bring some steadiness to your DB room where he's very well rounded and he's gonna be consistent for you. All right, you guys ready for the Ravens? Fifth quarterback off the board?
Yes.
Because I'm going with quarterback from Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, as the Ravens pick here at 29, trading back. Putting some pressure on Lamar Jackson, like, hey, we're ready to move on. So get a trade done. I think that this guy is super underrated. There are some, clear question marks, but I think that there are question marks that can be answered, which is, processing, because they're saying that offense in Tennessee was designed to make it easy for the quarterback to kind of just go wide open over and over again. But who's to say that John Harbaugh can't draw it up for Hendon Hooker? I think that he can. And I think that people are underrating this guy's arm. He has a cannon. He can throw that thing down the field and put it out in front of his wide receivers, even the fastest in this class. I think he'll be great for Rashad Bateman. He's going to have a fun time with Mark Andrews, and he could start for the Ravens week 1 if Lamar Jackson, is still having issues there. This would basically lock them in that they're moving on from Lamar if they did this. But I think that at the spot they were at, they'd probably feel comfortable with trading back, probably further than this even, and then they can play it by ear and see if Hendon Hooker is still available, because I think he fits their offense beautifully.
And let's be honest, Hendon Hooker would have been higher draft prospect if he didn't have that injury at Tennessee. The injury has derailed him just a little bit, and it's put him behind the other two. So it's not that Hooker doesn't have the skill set to be a top quarterback in this league. He's just had injury, and a lot of people have question marks about him. And the other thing is he's 1 year younger than Lamar Jackson. He's 25 years old, and bringing him in, you're like, okay, it's kind of like bringing in an older veteran guy ready to go. So that's another thing, that you're not getting that 21-year-old, 22-year-old that you normally bring in the NFL draft. You're bringing a 25-year-old guy, and he better produce. But I do like this pick, Mike. I do like the pick.
He's got some pro qualities, I'll tell you. I mean, he does not miss short yardage throws. He hits every single one, and then has the underrated cannon, is what I'm going to call it. And I think another thing that was really impressive when I looked on tape is, and I saw it on a breakdown by Kurt Warner actually, he's like, because they spread that offense out so much, they create a lot of one-on-ones naturally, where the defense has no choice but to guard wide receivers one-on-one, even if they're the fastest motherfuckers on the planet, which leads teams to go, okay, you want to do that? We're going to rush 6 against 5, and Hooker has to deliver a pass while getting his head knocked off, and he did it repetitively. And that kind of stuff speaks miles and miles, and that's why I think a lot of people missed on Justin Herbert. They didn't look at that quality, that this guy will stand there and throw a 60-yard pass and get murdered on the play. Doesn't care.
He'll do the splits, Mike, and throw a dime. There's video evidence of it.
Exactly.
I really like it. I think that's a good pick no matter what, because even if you have Lamar Jackson, what's been the Achilles heel? Pro Bowler Snoop Huntley having to be your quarterback down the stretch. So now you got Hendon Hooker there, and it's also just another good spot for him if they were to trade or move off of Lamar Jackson.
And when Will Levis put out that he eats banana peels and drinks mayo with his coffee, I immediately lowered him behind Hendon Hooker.
When I saw that video of the mayonnaise, I was like, all right, I'm done with this guy.
He's out.
Done with this guy. Like, you don't do that. You don't put mayonnaise in coffee. You don't do that crap.
What the fuck is that? Anyways.
Tony, I think you're in a good spot. Philly took Nolan Smith earlier, and there's a guy I don't know if you're looking at him, but there's a guy right there in Brian BRYCE that I'm looking at like, damn, that would be a great addition. Philly went out and tried to get defensive tackles last year and put it in there, and you add another young guy in there. I'd be pissed off if Philly walked away with that.
I think that's the thing that I hate about Philly is they're in this situation where it's like they could go get the sort of hybrid linebacker, Drew Saunders from Arkansas, left at Alabama. You want to watch another fun player play football? This kid he's a maniac. I don't necessarily know that Howie would take him, but yeah, he's a good edge rusher, but he plays linebacker. I don't know that they would take guard at this spot, but if Osiris Torrance is there at 30, I think that's probably the pick that I'm going to make. But Joe, like you said, there's no bad spot for them to go because their team is so loaded. Like, I don't think they'll play Cam Jurgens at guard either. But even if they wait and get a guard in the 3rd round, just get somebody who's smart and athletic, and he's going to play between between Kelsey and some other all-pro tackle, like wherever Solomalu's vacancy is. Like, I'm not sure if it's the right or the left side, but he's going to fit in there fine. Like, they're going to figure it out. So I don't think that there's a bad spot to go. Yeah, I'm going to go with Osiris Torrance from Florida. I'll just give him a guard. But
it's a good pick.
I really want to find a way to put Drew Saunders in the 1st round. I'm just not sure what team it's to.
Philly seems like a team that just they've done this the last couple of years better than they've done ever, but they're just always drafting like a year ahead of needing the next guy on the offensive line. It's impressive, and it's how you keep the offensive line as strong as they have over the years.
Maybe Drew Saunders of the Chargers. Just shock the world.
There you go. Congrats, Tony. You just shocked the world. All right, Chiefs are on the clock here at 31. I think they would think about trading him back, but I'm going to pick this guy just because no one's given him any love. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft, and I would absolutely hate it if he ended up on the Chiefs. I think that he's like a mix of like Adam Thielen and Debo. He has a lot of Cooper Kupp-like traits and skill set. I think the Chiefs are going to weaponize him all over their formations, and I'm going with wide receiver out of Washington, or wide receiver out of Penn, Parker Washington, at 31.
Hold on a second.
Congrats.
This feels like you hating on them a little bit.
No, I think that this guy's good. I think that's good. And when you talk about there being no size in the draft class, the thing about Washington is he's a little bit thicker, and he runs his routes with some more power. I know it's a weird description for route running. He doesn't get knocked off his route like a lot of these smaller wide receivers do, or if they're running a corner and there's a guy in their way, they put a move on him and try and get out of his way. Parker Washington just runs straight, and that's the thing I like about him most, and it reminds me of Debo or Thielen. And I think they already got Sky Moore last year with the speed. So now you get a guy that's not necessarily a speed demon. He's not as explosive as, Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison or JSN, but he's going to be good. He's going to be good. And I have here that he dropped one pass in an entire season of football. What? That's unheard of.
Yeah, no, it's great. I feel like it doesn't really matter. Like, the wide receiver is going to be fine in the offense. They're going to draft somebody that they know how to utilize. Like, even if they got one of these guys that are undersized, they're going to find a way to create space and like a situation to have the person succeed in, because we're looking at Parker Washington, 5'10", not really anything like overly special.
He's good. I don't know what you're watching. He's special.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, who would you draft over him? Josh Downs is like the only guy I think in this range that would probably be even like thought about. But I think that you got similar problems with Downs, and I just think that Downs isn't going to handle volume as well as Washington will.
All right. Well, that's what's fun. We're going to get to see. We're going to get to see all these players in the NFL. That completes it. That knocks our draft out. I think that's an interesting one, Mike. I haven't seen Parker getting drafted that high anywhere.
I haven't either. I think that, like I said, they probably instead of just drafting him here, they may trade back a few picks if someone wants to come up and get, one of the D tackles or Darnell Washington didn't get drafted. Oh no, did he? Yeah, so maybe him, someone like that. But we're not going to trade out of the 31st pick in the first mock draft. That's not happening.
Yeah, I think that I think it's going to be interesting to see that, because like even when I hear all of the people talk, like you think about like all the people who dive into everything, he's much further down the list of guys that are going. But again, I think any of these top 15, 20 receivers will be just fine. Like Sky Moore, I believe, will take a nice jump in the NFL next year. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they also could be looking at DB again. Last year, they got a perfect guy to fall to them, and this year, both Julius Brents, Keely Ringo, DJ Turner, they're all there still, which is a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting players still that are on the board that are probably, first round players. Like this is my favorite time of year, because we don't really ever go back and look at like all the dumb shit we said from the year before, because we're fans. It doesn't matter. It has no bearing one way or the other. Like every once in a while, people want to like remind you of some stupid shit you said, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Our jobs aren't on the line, so I support whatever Tom Telesco decides to do until he either wins a Super Bowl or is no longer the general manager.
We'll get there. Joe, they're liking your fit today. Everyone's been complimenting it.
Well, I had to come dressed like a GM. I had to come ready to go. And like Tony's saying, like I'm looking at this draft board. There's still a lot of great guys that I would want to take here in the first round, or come second day, I'd be like, oh, can I get up and get these guys and see if I can get them? Like, how many times did I talk about Miles Murphy and Will McDonald that I wanted to draft them, and they still sitting there. And if I'm sitting, Pittsburgh would be the next pick on the draft, right? They got the first pick in the second round. They're sitting there, and remember, guys, there's only 31 picks in this first round because Miami loves Tua so much that they had to go out there and talk to Tom Brady and lost that pick. So Pittsburgh traded up to number 30. They got 32 for Chase Claypool, and they're sitting here, and they're building the next one, and you're looking at what could Pittsburgh need. And I already had Pittsburgh trade up here in our draft earlier and take Witherspoon. So now I think they're sitting in a great position.
Yeah. I just figured it out, Mike. Buffalo. Drew Saunders to Buffalo. You lose Jermaine Evans, and you replace him with a 6'4" linebacker who had 11 sacks last year. Yeah, I'm looking at it. There's still wide receivers. There's still tight ends, right? Like Luke Musgrave will still be there. Washington will still be there.
Gibbs is still there for the running backs for some of these teams that want a running back. But yeah, I think that if it ends like this, going into day 2, they had a whole day overnight to look at the board. You're going to see some trades at the beginning of going day 1 to day 2.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great. There's a guy, there's a linebacker sitting there, but I think it's good that he won't go first round. I don't think he'll go first round at all. But Jack Campbell's my favorite linebacker in this draft.
Yeah, Jack Campbell feels like that somehow they discovered a time machine in 1984. And then he was like, I want to play football in 2023. And he just like jumped. He just feels very old school. He feels like my youth of linebackers. When I watch him, I'm like, is this guy, what if he's in coverage, he's going to get cooked by some of these tight ends. But he just plays a really sturdy football, like really solid. He just reminds me of old school linebackers.
You get there and he's like, what the hell? The rules are completely different. I can't tackle people without, having to gently lower them onto a pillow onto the ground.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I'm talking about hip drop tackles and all these different kinds of tackles. Back in my day, they just called it tackle. They didn't call it anything. If the guy hits the ground, you tackled him.
Yeah, I'm upset with you guys. I thought there would be more trades in this draft. We only had, what, 1, 2, 3? 3 trades?
If there was 3 trades in the first day alone, that's for realism. That's a lot of trades.
Yeah, I think it was a good number. There wasn't really, just because, Joe, also too, the way the board is going,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know where the trades would have been.
So is there any picks that you would go back and change now that you already made the pick? Would you go back and change any of these picks that you made?
Maybe the receiver. The receivers might have gotten some love there once we started getting to the 20s. No.
I think I think my Houston pick at 12, I might have gone in a different direction. Like, just knowing that we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be, but yeah, maybe I would redo that one. This is not how my mock draft is going to look at all, guys. Like, us collaborating on this together, the worthless prediction that I'm going to put out here in 2 weeks is not going to look anything like this.
Yeah, and I almost thought about trading up with Dallas to get the running back before. I knew maybe right before the Chargers, but to me, I'm like, no, I just sat there. I think Dallas the price might be too steep for them to trade up.
We got a question here, and then JJ Nolan says Tony, the Bills should take Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback out of Miami, would be a great pick. Yeah, but in the first round though, because didn't they get Kyer Elam last year, and Trey White's now a year removed from the injury? I think that they need to attack the offensive line or get that linebacker. I really think that Drew Saunders is somebody we're going to talk a lot about the closer we get to the draft. We're going to start hearing his name pop up a lot. But the Tank Dell pick was just for fun. That was because we're here and things have already been kind of crazy. So I just
rewind it if you guys missed any of them. Yeah. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Only regret I have, Joe, is I would have drafted more DBs. I only got to draft 2, and one of them was to a team I don't want to draft a DB. So that's my only regret.
But I think there's a good number of them that went.
Oh, yeah. I think all the ones that I had first-round grades on went.
Let's wrap this show up. JJ Nolan says, do you think the Jets trade Green Bay a first for Aaron Rodgers?
No.
I don't think they're getting a first-round pick. I think the Jets are making whatever that pick. What do they have, 14? What are the picks the Jets have?
I think the only way a first round's involved, JJ, if it's a pick swap somehow. That's the only way.
Oh, you mean like move up from 12, like 15 to 12 or whatever it is?
Yeah, wherever I think they're 15, 13, right? 15 to 12, so 3 picks. If I'm the Bears, I'm trading back. Okay. The Bears are starting to stockpile these picks, so I wouldn't be shocked if they continue to do that. Have a great day, Zero. What the? Get this out of here. Do you like my pick, though, Joe?
I like the pick, yes.
See? Put me in the seat of the Raiders GM and see how the franchise goes.
Put me in the seat. It would be a lot different, too. Because I would fire somebody.
Yeah, Zero said wear your seatbelt and all this good stuff. So I think that's it. We're going to call it here, guys. Anything else before I sign us out of here?
No, you did a great job.
Thanks.
Mock
draft 1.0. Here it is. We'll be doing another one, so keep an eye on the page. Again, turn those notifications on. Make sure you guys subscribe. Help us out a ton by liking this video. And if you want to really help us, go on a whole entire spree of liking all the videos on the page. Share them with your guys' friends. Share them with some people who might be shocked by some of the picks that we made here. Joe, keep that hat on. Come on. Put it back on. Put it back on. Come on.
And the show, Mike, I got to get back to grinding tape. I got to grind some more tape.
Everyone go grind your tape.